for I think the rest of you guys.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Irongeek Cast number 83, Most High. And no, that doesn't necessarily mean any of us are high on the stream. It's just, well, you'll figure it out eventually.
Wait, what? No, never.
What? No, I wasn't in the Netherlands.
Oh, God, you know what? I have not announced this cast. Hold on a second.
Wait, what?
We have to, maybe someone is high. I don't know.
I would be high, but I'm not in Colorado, sadly. Or Maryland.
Of course, I've
or anywhere else where it's recreational.
All right, we take this, put it here.
Make the thing with the thing. Do the thing. Make sure the thing's all good, and we're good. So while Adrian's announcing the cast, how's everyone doing?
Nothing I'd like to talk about openly.
All right. Cool. Vague at best.
I'm doing great.
So we got Vague at best, and I'm doing great, and I am as well. I'm doing fantastic.
Well, I'm sick and getting better, and I'm also having to clean my fucking house up for preparation for Friday, so that's a lot of fun.
What's going on Friday?
I'll get new windows.
Oh, nice.
Yep.
Is there something out newer than 10?
No. Windows for my house.
I know. I got you. I got you.
Dipshit. No, I'm not gonna run Windows in my for my house operating system. That's moronic. Come on.
I mean, well, okay. Like, side question before we get into the show notes. What's Alexa run on? Isn't that Amazon's own like Android? Like,
I think it's Android or Linux. Yeah.
It's Android.
It's Android.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've got one of those at my.
Don't
use it.
Don't.
Yeah,
you like being spied on, don't you?
Yeah, like it wasn't my choice. I'm hanging out at my parents' place until I can figure out. I'm in a transitionary period, graduating. Well, that's an announcement. I'm graduating from college. Woo!
Congratulations.
But yeah, they've got an Alexa in the living room and also one in their bedroom, and I'm like, no.
No.
Like,
nope.
Why? And then my dad was like, yeah, I'm going to automate the entire house with this. I'm like, no. With what? Alexa's, no. Closed circuit Raspberry Pis, dude. Like, it'd be more fun. You're a software guy. Go for it.
Well, actually, about that, there is a thing called a Respeaker by, what is it? Seed Studio, SEEED Studio. That's essentially a Raspberry Pi for voice control, and it can go to Google it can go to Google Assistant, it can go to Amazon, it can go to custom ones. You get the idea. So there's that.
Oh, gotcha.
I was one of the Kickstarter backers on that.
Is it encrypted?
Depends on if the service is.
Goes through audio encoding. Well, I'll just bring this up since we're talking about it. There we go. So we're talking about the Respeaker project. This is a little Raspberry Pi doohickey add-on module that you can clip on, that you have to interface to your Raspberry Pi, probably via jumper cables or soldering the pins onto it of some sort. Probably not soldering. They're usually pretty good about that with Raspberry Pi modules. But essentially it works like this. Audio encoding, you go to the beam forwarding, and then it records, does playback, blah, blah, blah. So make your own Alexa, I guess.
Yeah.
And have it off the internet as much as possible. Or don't allow inward connections to it. That might... Another side question. Can you set up firewall rules... this might be even a dumb question. Set up firewall rules to not allow any incoming connections to a Alexa or a Google Home Assistant.
You could on your Wi-Fi if you did that, but it would lose connectivity and it would stop working.
Okay, because I'm assuming that, and the stop working would be because Amazon would have to, or Amazon or Google would have to keep these like incoming connections come in, or why would that be?
Because every time you ask it to do something, it sends a request off to their application or their serverless infrastructure to process it. They have like this little network there that processes it and returns it back.
Okay.
So if for some reason like it can't understand it, it'll go, "Hey, I don't understand that." But if it does, then it does what it wants you to do. So.
Okay.
You know.
So it's still okay. So you would have to limit that.
Yeah,
That'd be
because the Alexa device actually has very little like computing power. It's basically just a speaker with a microphone and a network transmitter, and basic little bit of hardware and software to run it all. Most of the actual like lifting is on Amazon's side.
Gotcha. So all the data processing's there. Cool.
Yep.
Unless you preload. I had a buddy who was preloading skills onto it. So, but he was like, it was just like an if then else statement. Like if you asked it for a certain, we made rules of the office, and a lot of them were just jokes about people in the office. So like you would say like rule 13, and it would say like if you bring your home machine into the office, Caprico can and will port scan you for our stuff. I don't know. It was something that literally was a rule for me. All right. You guys ready to get into the show notes?
Well, I'll just go ahead and announce 2 conferences I'll be at next.
Not bad.
BuildCon on September 6th and 7th, and DerbyCon on 5th through 7th. And let's see how everything goes with that.
Right.
And also, would you like me as a professor? Let's put that out there.
That'd be actually pretty cool. But
all right.
It's like I already watched a couple of your talks. They're pretty good.
Thank you.
All right.
All right. So we got week's report. That's your thing.
Yeah. I guess this week it is my thing, as Israel is on vacation. So Neil was not able to join. So I've only got one this week, as I found it right at the beginning of the cast. So Black Hat was hacked a little bit. So Legacy Systems exposed Black Hat 2018 attendees' contact information. So from what I gathered, there were NFC-enabled conference badges, and NFC is the same, or near-field communication. It's the same thing of like you scan a badge to get in somewhere, all that fun stuff. What they were able to do is enumerate each of the badge ID numbers and then hit the API, and then to subsequently download all of the records that Black Hat had on attendees. Now, a number is not disclosed within this report, but it's kind of funny when you have a security conference get hacked for something as simple as not rate limiting your APIs and having identifiable user information that can be easily scanned. But it was probably some dude at the conference that did this, let's be honest. So, and yeah. Anything else? Like, what's your guys' take on this?
It's always bad when a security company gets itself hacked. I remember people's like EC Council. I'm surprised they didn't suffer more from that happening to them a couple of years ago. And they never gave a good response to why their sites got the faces a couple times. But people are still requesting and teaching CEH classes, so I guess it didn't hurt them too bad financially.
Right. So, what's funny to me is everyone's really on this like NFC train now, and including Europe is big on this. When I was over there, I had to open up a Dutch bank account and everything, and they gave me a card that was NFC enabled, and I used that thing incessantly over there. And then every time I used it, I was like, this is way too easy for me to just like have my own reader. Like you could just have like your own credit card reader, like, and there's like these little handheld guys, or like these little handheld devices that you can just walk around with, battery power it, and just start like charging people's cards.
Well, that's difficult to do because most of them are very short range. I mean, it all depends on which NFC specification you're using, because most of them are like maybe half a foot, if that.
Yep.
No, you have to be like right up on it. It's
Well,
like
Yeah,
some have pretty good range. Some can go a couple feet, but most of them, it's within a few inches.
Well, and the other thing too with NFC, as far as I understand it, it has the same kind of technology in it as RFID. And RFID, when you power a card, you get what's called feedback, where the card is powered. The chip inside the card is powered. You then have a larger range where it's sending out the data from that card. So you could just power the card and have a guy another foot away actually read it.
Yeah, but actually the act of reading it or bringing it towards a reader is what powers it, because they are induction powered. They have no batteries. Literally, they have an induction coil inside of them that when a radio frequency for the scanner is emitted, it powers the card up, and when it's removed, it shuts down.
I'd like to point out that I saw a video of someone saying that the ability to have a NFC card that automatically adds a contact to your contacts list is an O-Day.
Wait, what?
Somebody said an NFC card. I saw a video of someone saying an NFC card that you scan and it automatically gives. It automatically adds a contact to your contact list is an O-Day.
Okay, explain how that's an O-Day, or how this person explained that was an O-Day.
They said it was an O-Day. I never said they were smart.
Okay, joking, got it.
I know Christine Paget, back in the day, look up Chris Paget on any kind of video set. They would work on extending the range of NFC and RFID, weren't they? Like how far away you could capture stuff?
Yeah, in theory, you could capture stuff a few feet away, depending on the frequency of the card itself. Because there's, at least in RFID, there's three different categorizations for it. The signal strength. There was low frequency, high frequency, and ultra high frequency. Low frequency, obviously, you're going to get less range out of it. But the high frequency, it's an exponential gain if you power that card and how much distance that card is actually shooting.
I thought in general radio waves went further if they were longer, lower frequency.
Yes, when they're a longer, it's like AM. Yeah, it's that. Yeah,
it's partly true, but also the transmission power plays a factor into it too. That's why like a little half-watt radio that you like, those FRS radios, doesn't go very far, but suddenly you get 4 watts or 2 watts from a ham radio, and you can get a couple extra miles out of it, if not double or triple it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's some other. Is that physics? That's physics. I feel like.
Yeah, it is.
Some other physics stuff that I'm not a physics major, so I don't know. But another place that gets pwned by the act of having things convenient on badges ending up being their downfall. Erg. I feel like we talked about and this kind of goes back to that company. I think it's in Wisconsin. They have injectable RFID chips for getting into the headquarters of the building. It's like one company that's trialing this, and it's this little like pill-shaped cylinder with an RFID chip that gets injected into the webbing between your pointer finger and your thumb, like that little soft area there. And what was really funny is they did an audit and someone just threw a rock in the door and no one moved it. And people could just walk right in. Best vulnerability ever. All right. You guys have anything else for Black Hat being hacked?
I'd like to point out whoever hacked them must be a real black hat.
But
Or was he a black Hebrew Israelite?
Who knows? Depends on what color his hat was.
All right, my weird group of the week. I guess we can get that now, unless anybody has anything else to say about Black Hat.
It's overpriced, expensive, and it's nothing but vendors giving shit away. That's the only real good thing about it. And then you have to give them your information in order for them to harass you. So realistically, Black Hat is nothing but a fucking dog and pony show of vendors.
That was a sentence.
All right.
All right. I'll stop sharing my screen for a minute while you're doing your bit.
Okay. Well, the weird group of the week this time around is the Black Hebrew Israelites, or as they would just say, Hebrew Israelites, because saying Black Hebrew Israelites would be kind of inaccurate because all Hebrew Israelites are black, and all Israelites, all people of the Bible who we refer to as Israelites or Hebrews, like Jesus, they were all black, and they base this partly on things like, and granted, Jesus wasn't white. You know, my understanding, Semitic, Arab looking probably. So I think what the current theories are. But they take certain parts of the King James specifically version of the Bible and various descriptions to go that all the Israelites were black, and the current people that we refer to as Jews kind of appropriated their culture. That's their theory. Now, this one actually just really fit the theme I was originally going to go for this segment, because most of these segments, I'm going to talk about people who kind of found each other via the internet, but this group apparently was founded in like the late 19th century by, well, at least the idea from like Frank Cherry and a guy named William Saunders Crowdy, who thought that African Americans were the descendants of Hebrews from the Bible. And I got a couple great links out there to describe some of the theology and so forth. One of the things they're known for is to be on street corners. Well, catcalling, I mean, too many people call too many things catcalling. They're not catcalling in any kind of sexual way. They're calling out the doctrines and so forth. They're kind of like street creatures, but they seem to regularly get in confrontations with people. Their views seem to be mostly based on, well, a lot of the Old Testament, but also the New Testament. And I don't think they believe in salvation by faith. I'm a little confused on this issue. And by the way, there's multiple, I believe they're called camps of Hebrew Israelites. Like someone's broken them into like 3 different groups. A guy named James Tenney, who apparently does look into the organizations. Black Jews who maintain I'm getting this from Wikipedia, a Christological perspective and adopt Jewish rituals. So basically, kind of like Christians, but they also throw in some stuff from the Old Testament that most Christians have thrown out as far as doing, like making I guess a requirement that you get circumcised. Making sure that you can't put a milk and dairy together, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Black Hebrews, who are more traditional in the practice of Judaism, and Black Israelites, who are more nationalistic and the furthest from traditional Judaism. I think that last group is the one I usually see as the street preachers. They seem to get confrontations with people. I mean, they definitely have some anti-white sentiment, because at least one of them I heard, like I said, keeping in mind those different camps. So what I'm saying about one of them isn't true for all the different camps. They apparently have doctrinal differences, but they do. At least one I was listening to does seem to think that blacks are genetically superior, because he was giving shit to a black dude who had either a white girlfriend or a white wife. I'm not sure. I just saw the video of it, as talking all this shit to the guy about he should leave her and it's going to weaken his genetic line and all this stuff. He also seemed to yell something out at a couple that was like a black woman and a white man walking together down the street. Some of the views, it's kind of odd. If they seem to think that, okay, not all blacks are necessarily Hebrew Israelites. However, my saying all African Americans are in a few other places around the Americas, and apparently maybe spread throughout, but there's also Africans that they are not black Israelites, and those are the ones that sold them into slavery, according to them, along with the Arabs, sold them to white people. They think that, and by the way, I mentioned they followed the King James Bible, and that might seem a little silly since the King James was of England was white, but according to them, he wasn't, and blacks ruled all of Europe up until a certain point. I don't remember what it was. I think he said maybe Cromwell, up until Cromwell. So that's a claim that, you know, the King James Version was sponsored by a black king. So that makes it okay. I'm trying to think what other weird views I've heard from them.
So they just don't acknowledge the fact that, well, before then, there's Constantine.
Well, I'm more guessing. I didn't hear Constantine specifically, but
Right.
I would say, well, Constantine spread Christianity, so they might excuse him out.
Just like in terms of like who like ruled Europe, like was it Constant? Who am I thinking? I'll get it in a second. I gotta remember.
Constantine was a Roman emperor who probably controlled large swaths of Europe.
No. Yeah, no, that I'm getting my names mixed up. Charlemagne, that's the one I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, well, he would be a European leader, but he wouldn't necessarily have led, you know, all of it. I'm not sure if it was Charlemagne.
A large part of it, but yeah.
I'm trying to think of what other views I heard from them that were a little bit out there, but yeah, they seem to follow the Old Testament and the New Testament, and instead of salvation by faith, it seems to be salvation by works of, you know, following God's laws as outlined in the King James Version of the Bible. Like I said, I don't know if I would outline them as a hate group, but they certainly don't think white people are particularly up to snuff. Then again, they also have a problem with you know, feminists, and they also seem to have a problem with at least some Arabs, and I don't think they probably look down on Japanese people and you know, various Asian varieties also. But I'm trying to listen to the street preaching, and it's just kind of weird. I definitely recommend listening to some of this shit sometimes, because it's sort of hilarious, but they seem to get regularly in conflicts with somebody. Like this one guy who's a Hebrew Israelite got in a fight with a feminist on the street where they were arguing back and forth about rape. Well, that reminds me, they define rape as to grab, which, granted, it does have that context in, like, my understanding, the original languages. Sorry, I stopped reading chat stuff. Why don't I show my face? Because I'm not that pretty. That's why I don't show my face. Okay.
Is that on stream? Yeah. Excuse me.
Anyway, where was I? One of the views, but you know, he was kind of downplaying rape. It sounded like, and the feminist got in a fight with him. He got in a fight with the feminist, and it was look up Hebrew Israelites, or maybe it's Black Israelites versus feminists on YouTube. It's kind of interesting video. They also got, like I said, a conflict with people who are in mixed race relationships just walking by. When they do the street preaching, they're not trying to convert white people. And at least one variety of the Black Hebrew Israelites don't think whites are ever going to be saved. They can't actually go to heaven, I suppose. I
love these kind of like religious religion-esque sects of Christianity and Judaism and stuff like that.
Oh, they're okay with having multiple wives, because it is in the Bible, and they are right on that.
Yeah, Old Testament. Yeah. Yeah,
they do seem to skip out parts of the New Testament though that say that, you know, you don't necessarily have to follow all the rules of the Old Testament. I'm trying to. Oh, there was someone who was talking about it being okay to marry a 12-year-old.
Okay, yeah, there is an old. There's a spot in the Old Testament where it talks about taking care. I don't remember what it was. It was something about taking care of people's families, on like how they were supposed to, like, if you had, like, say you were in an Old Testament society and you were one of the Jews, you were to, and like say your brother died, you were supposed to take like his wife or something like that. I don't remember. I think that's where that comes from. I don't remember the exact spot.
I noticed a part where oh great, what is that term? Oh, by the way, they call white people Edomites sometimes, because apparently white people are all descended from Esau in the Bible. you know, the one that gave up his birthright because for like a what was a bowl of porridge. So I'm assuming that they all assume that they're descended from Jacob. I haven't quite got that from them. Apparently, some have a problem with using the letter J because J is not in the original Hebrew. I don't know if that's the actual fact. Just listening to the street preaching sometimes, it's some pretty interesting stuff. But I don't know what else to say about this particular group. I've never actually personally encountered any of them because I think they're mostly in big cities.
How big are they? Just like populous?
Oh, I have no idea.
Yeah.
Well, actually, maybe let me look in the Wikipedia. I think the Wikipedia did say something about a number, but I'm not seeing it. Most of my knowledge from this just comes to listening to the street preaching, and also you'll see a couple of videos I've linked to in the show notes of people talk about them. The people talking about them, it's not so much them. When they're talking, it's because I've gotten recordings of them street preaching. But when other people are talking about them, it's usually either some kind of a Christian group that's saying that, you know, this is not the right religion, and often a black Christian, like Jesse Peterson is this black conservative, I think Baptist preacher, and he had a bunch on interviews with various people who are Hebrew Israelites, and that's kind of interesting to watch. So sometimes when you listen to someone's detractors talk about the group, that's not great information because some people twist things. But in this case, they're interviewing the Hebrew Israelites, and so the Hebrew Israelites do get their say out there about what they believe. So I recommend checking out some of Jesse Peterson's interviews with them, which are kind of interesting. One of them I linked to, by the way, someone calls Jesse a bunch of racial terms that some black people call other black people who they disagree with. I used that source because that was just the source I found. So,
yeah, this is, and you said these guys were made in the turn of the
around the turn of the century. Yeah,
turn of the century. Okay, like turn of like 1900s, 1900.
Well, I mean, there was a lot of I'm not saying there was a lot of Israelite iconography amongst African Americans during that time period because slavery had ended not that within very recent memory, and a lot of people made connections between the Israelites and their escape from bondage.
Okay.
And so, you know, the stories of the Israelites were very popular, and even what was the lady who was, what was her name? She was referred to as Moses Tubman, Harriet Tubman.
Oh, interesting.
So Harriet Tubman was referred to as Moses because she helped a lot of freed or escaped black slaves get up to Canada and so forth. So that kind of connection to the Israelites was already there, and someone else took it and added more religious elements. So they'll say it's not necessarily religious; it's a nationality.
He did the Underground Railroad. Right?
I'm listening to it, and I'm not saying you can't all believe what I'm just saying. It's a big hodgepodge, and I think it would take a lot to actually understand the entire group. And it's several groups, and it's like different camps, and not everybody necessarily believes the same thing. Oh, by the way, apparently, what is this? Nicki Minaj says she's the modern Harriet Tubman.
Wait, what?
Oh, you didn't see that?
Yeah,
No, I did not.
Yeah, she said that at the VMAs.
That's some pretty dumb shit.
Well, motherfuckers are dumb.
Yep. Like you said, motherfuckers are dumb.
I feel like I haven't explained this group particularly well because I was just trying to figure it out myself, and it's hard to piece together and actually give a good coherent explanation of them. But
to me, it kind of just sounds like another branch off. Like this happened a lot during that time frame as well. This is where you had Mormons and Jehovah's Witnesses start. Was during that same time frame as well. They branched off of the different churches, made their own ideologies. So, and that might be a coincidence, or it might be a thing of like, hey, white guys are going off and doing their own thing. One guy just made Mormonism. One guy just made Jehovah's Witness, and then it's like, why don't we do that? I don't know.
Yeah, I think you got a good point there. It's quite a possibility. In the case of some religions, if you had a problem getting along with your neighbors, well, first of all, the United States had a freedom of religion as one of the basic rights. Also, at the time, had a fair amount of land still to be expanded into. So if you didn't get along with your neighbors because of your religion, you could move off into it. Though that said, my understanding, I think the Hebrew Israelites started off around Harlem in New York.
Right at the turn of the century. Yeah, that's tough. Yeah, that. Well, no, I take that back because I think Mormonism and Jehovah. I'm trying to remember. John Smith's the
Jehovah's
Mormonism.
Witnesses was back in 1914, and I know this because my mom tried to raise me as a Jehovah's Witness.
Yeah,
Mormonism was back in the 1800s.
Yeah.
Right?
That's why I'm like, one of them started at that time because I had a girlfriend a while back where her dad was an ex Jehovah Witness, and he and I got to talking about that for a while, just figuring out what the differences were and all that stuff.
Unless
genuinely
what you're talking about, what splintered off of the Mormon splinter was the FDLS and the LDS. The FDLS they're the ones that you would commonly refer to as having the sister wives and shit.
Ew.
They're the ones who stick primarily with polygamy.
Gotcha.
And the LDS church, just disavowed having anything at all to do with polygamy in order to become a state.
And that state is what is it?
Utah.
Yeah. I was like, what? Where's Salt Lake? Oh yeah, Utah. There's one place I have not been.
Yeah, in hindsight, like I said, this group is probably not one I probably should have brought up because they have a history that goes far back before the internet. But I'm sure they've used the internet to spread their messages before. So usually what I see is other people's recordings of, well, no, not mentioning it, looking at some of the comments or the descriptions, that I'm pretty sure many do control their own YouTube channels. But it's something that predates the internet by quite a bit, so it doesn't really fit the criteria I originally was thinking of for this section. But if anybody has any ideas for weird groups we should talk about, let me know so I can look them up.
Scientology. Boom.
Everybody knows about Scientology, though, to a degree.
Yeah,
I mean, we could do a
isn't it
South
cool?
Park
Like in the past, I don't know, 3 to 5 years, just this onslaught of shit coming out about them.
Yep.
Like I didn't know what they were a couple of years ago, and then all of a sudden, Going Clear, the TV show, books.
Yeah, Operation Clambake with Anonymous, I think, put out a lot of shit. Although that said, there was a Time magazine article back in the 90s that put out a lot of it, and it kind of settled down. But when they tried to silence that Tom Cruise video off of YouTube, that's when Anonymous came after their asses, and the shit got spread a lot. And then South Park covered them, and had to put a caption and saying, "Yes, this is what they really believe." Shit like that.
That was the best South Park episode ever.
No. I mean, there's been other ones that
okay,
like been a lot better, but
like
I just didn't like it because that's where Isaac Hayes terminated his involvement with South Park because he got butthurt.
But the Mormons were like, they weren't cool with the Scientology. At least the chef wasn't, right?
Right, because
or they had brainwashed him.
Well, yeah,
his son said they brainwashed him, right?
Yeah.
But like for the Mormon folks, like they took that as an opportunity to get the word out. They were like, cool,
Well, they
went along with it.
Well, also the episode about the Mormons was pretty nice, all things considered, because it basically came down to you believe some dumb shit, but you're nice to people, and you don't want to be my friend because I believe some dumb shit. Fuck off, the Mormons kind of came up a little bit better in the South Park episodes.
Do you remember what the song was as they were talking about their different beliefs?
Dum da dum dum dum.
Yes. yeah. That's right. Oh, it was so good.
But then at the end,
it was so funny.
I don't remember if it was Kyle or I forgot the names.
Cartman, Kyle, Kenny,
Stan.
Yeah, I think it was Stan maybe. when he was kind of making fun of the other guy, or was kind of having problems with the other guy who was Mormon. He said, "Yeah, we may have some silly beliefs, but we're basically good people." I don't know. I've only met one Mormon really, and got much of a conversation with him. He seemed pretty cool, but I haven't really encountered many people of that particular religion.
I have, but we won't talk about the missionaries coming to my door and all the strange shit I did to get them to go away.
I was under the impression though, and I don't want to badmouth someone because I don't know enough about the religion. Didn't at one time the Mormons have some problems with like black people? And,
of course. Of course, because up until 1974, they believed that the only way somebody like me could ascend to what their version of heaven was to be a fucking servant. Until one day they woke up and realized, hey, we're on the wrong side of this whole civil rights issue, so
change the doctrine.
Yep.
There was
well, if I ever get my own planet, Jack, you're always welcome.
What do I got to give you a little soft shoe? A little,
Nah, man, you get it for free. Plenty of pogs there for you.
We can start our own religion.
The
tax write-offs.
The Iron Geekians or whatever.
What did Darren call it?
No, you get the tax write-offs. It's a religion.
We'll just call it tax write-off.
Yeah, and that was the whole reason behind Scientology.
Yeah, because originally he was doing it as something more like a replacement for psychology, but then he found out about tax write-offs, and also I think he got sued for some kind of medical thing, maybe. And you can't do that. You have more freedom of speech rights as a religion than you do as something that proclaims to be a science of some sort. I think that's what it had to do with, maybe malpractice. I don't quite recall. There was something to deal with it being originally treated more like a type of psychology, and then they convert to religion because it was easier to do things that way. I know he had huge problems. L. Ron Hubbard had huge problems with psychologists. Was it psychiatrists, I believe?
Oh yeah, for sure. That's why they don't do medical drugs, and
so he did.
There was that whole deal about what's that?
Apparently, though, L. Ron Hubbard was on a bunch of drugs when he died.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it's hard to hold him to any standard, and what came of the religion afterwards. Tom Cruise went on that one big bent about medication and that sort of thing within psychological help, but the organization right now is against that. I'm not saying they're Christian Scientists, which won't let if they're dying, they pray. They don't take their kids to doctors. So that's pretty fucking nutty, man.
Yeah, and bad side about that, I think, another thing bad about that was, now anytime you got a question of how we handle I'm sorry, I'm studying myself real bad. How we treat psychiatric drugs. I mean, there was some legitimate criticism about the use and maybe overprescription of them, but
yeah, for sure.
Coming out there and acting like an insane person about it, I don't think helped that particular cause.
So, if you guys listen to Joe Rogan's podcast,
yes,
at all,
sometimes, yes.
So he had a scientist on there talking about the ramifications of mental health drugs. Let's say benzos and the whole gamut, benzos and SSRIs and what they do to the liver. And there's been cases of people that have been in long-term medication that completely flip. Their liver gets toxified and it affects their mind, and they've killed their children because of it. Yeah, it can get pretty nasty. And sometimes you just need to get over something, right? I understand that some people have a need where they're so depressed, they're thinking about suicide, and these drugs can help for a short time. But long-time use, I'm sure it's good for some people, and I would never look down on those people. They know what they need better than I do. But yeah, these drugs can backfire on you.
Yeah, and there's always and more guys on Joe Rogan's podcast. I just started listening to it. A lot of those guys that he has on, they talk about like their battles with like depression and mental health and state like that. And these are successful guys. And what they do, like I was listening to the Henry Rollins one yesterday, and what he does is interesting. He just goes out and does something when he's depressed. He like gets something done. It's not like, and I think it was him that was saying like, no, that was Jordan Peterson. He was saying like,
it's cathartic.
Yeah, it's like and basically what both of them were saying was like, just go out, have something that you need, that you want to do or that you need to do. Make sure that you just get it done, and then you get this rush of endorphins, and you're good.
Yeah, they talk about planning out your day, making your bed, that sort of thing, so that you're not stuck in a funk, which a lot of people get trapped into. Now, there are people that see depression as just a crippling pain. They don't know how to get out of it. They're put on medication, but all they want to do is commit suicide because life is more painful than, life is more painful than death. So I don't know if it worked for those people, but certainly exercise and having a plan is very effective to getting past a lot of these mental health issues. Which I've had some of that lately. For sure.
Yeah. Well, a lot of times, just for my own experience, for me, if I'm not doing something, I get depressed. So I constantly have to be moving or doing something. I have to be like completing some task or project or whatever, or at least getting somewhere on something. So it doesn't have to be working out. For me, a lot of it is like just coding something, like hacking a box or whatever on Hack the Box, reaching that new level in a video game or something like that. Like,
and I'm in a position right now where I don't have goals in front of me outside of, I picked up a position to do some pen testing.
Thanks.
It's like a W-2 type thing.
Oh, okay.
Which will carry me for a little bit, but my goals now have completely shifted. Like, what are my goals? Working out, I still have this nerve surgery I have to get over. So that's been dampened. I can't do too much. I can run still and that sort of thing, but I'm working through it, not on drugs. And again, I want to make this absolutely clear. There will be a mental health type forum at DerbyCon, and those people should be able to talk to a little better than us. I don't know what your guys' thoughts are on that, but
it's going.
Whatever you would do. I want to come and help, but now we'll be too busy doing video course to be an example of people's insanity.
Well, we'll take them on a tour just to find you.
Shoot, someone's replying to somebody's stuff that they follow me, but I can't read them because they're hidden. I don't really want to follow a person back because they have a tendency to post really annoying shit.
You could follow them and mute them.
The reason it's called Emotac. The reason it's called Most High is because the Black Hebrew Israelites will refer to God constantly as the Most High, as the Most High commanded, as the Most High wrote. They constantly refer to God as the Most High if you listen to them preach, and so that's why it's called Most High. Sorry, go ahead and continue.
No. I know you're screwing around. It's just I thought to myself, I've only seen a single black Jewish person my entire life.
Well, these guys. Well, that's the thing, though. These guys aren't really. And they're all black Jews people, like where I was saying, wasn't Sammy Davis Jr. one? And my understanding, there's various Jewish people who live in Ethiopia who've intermingled with the people who were there, and my understanding those guys are black, right?
Yes.
But yeah, the black Hebrew Israelites, in my personal opinion, no, they're probably really not actual Israelites, but very few people.
I've run into those guys.
If you're born in Israel, then you're a Israeli citizen and you're Israeli. It's any number of things
These
can lead to that.
These people stand on the street corner of New York and they pester people.
You're going to have to be far more specific.
Wow.
Yeah, they had. So there's a video I can post on Discord, but they've got a picture of some white dude going up and kissing their feet. It's an amazing goddamn video.
But according to them, Live Beef, you're appropriating their culture.
The Jewish culture?
You're talking about the We Was Kangs people?
No.
No, this is the black Israelites that from where I experienced them, and then where videos of them are taken often is on the different corners of New York City, and people that pass by, they'll be like, white Kate bitch. They'll call people names. Oh, it's funny. It's not for the person, but it's funny.
And there's all types.
Yes,
as long as they don't mess with me, I'm content just laughing at them from a distance.
Yeah. Now, again, I'm talking about my own experience here. I don't mean it to be a qualifier for everybody that's a black Israelite at all.
Right.
They're all different camps. That's what they refer to. They have slightly different belief systems. Maybe largely different belief systems. I'm not quite sure. But yeah, that has been my experience of the people you actually see on YouTube. There's plenty of YouTube videos of them getting in arguments with people on street corners.
Yeah. Yeah, and actually being like confrontational and coming out and like getting in people's faces. I'm sure that's not all of them, but that's the few that I came into contact with.
Well, they don't think white. At least the ones I was listening to talk on Jesse Peterson, no relation. His thing, white people can't be saved. And a different thing, I saw some people who were doing street preaching giving some black dude shit because his girlfriend or his wife was white. Yeah, at least some of them have some problems. Let's put it that way. Them and the alt-right in some ways would probably get along. Strangely enough. As long as they all got separate places, they'd probably get along.
Yeah.
What is the world, man?
Because both of them, don't like the idea of anybody of one race really, I guess, associating or at least marrying another one. So, or having those kind of intimate relationships. So they might get very get along with that shit. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I want to hang out with either one of them, but listening to them talk sometimes is freaking amusing.
It's fascinating how someone could somehow grow up and develop with that kind of worldview. It's just like what kind of abuse, like what kind of strange life must they have grown up in to develop that kind of mindset?
Probably just one that looks very similar to anyone that goes through or that's brought up with any sort of religion or ideal set.
I'm thinking in these guys' cases, and actually to a degree, both these guys and the alt-right, I mean, people who don't have a strong connection to any one group and they want a group to belong in, and this one group gives you some kind of purpose and a sense of identity and membership, I think that's quite a large part of it.
For sure. Yeah.
I see that.
Wasn't there, I don't know if this is in the show notes. I listened to the Fifth Column podcast. They're libertarians, and I pretty much my thought process is in line with theirs. And their most recent episode talks about Unite the Right 2, but I don't know anything about it. The good news for the last couple of weeks that I've been off work, I haven't looked at any political YouTube podcasts or YouTube videos or kept on politics at all. So that's been helpful for stress, man.
And it's probably, you probably would be in the same position had you listened to all that stuff, as it's can't really do anything with most of this political knowledge other than just be confused and worried.
Yeah, confused, worried, and sometimes angry, right? And that's never a good spot to be in when there's not a lot of change you can affect, because you're helpless in making a change. It's never good to be angry about something that other people are doing that doesn't directly impact you, and where everything is layered in confusion. So I've been glad for that. I haven't even been paying attention to Twitter.
Same here. I've been trying to spend a lot less time on Twitter, and it has been very nice.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? I mean, even if you could take a week off and just let the news pass you, don't pay attention to it, get into your hobbies, that's healthy. As far as I'm concerned.
There's only been one bit of news related to Twitter that I've heard in the past several weeks that has made me happy, and that is Will Wheaton leaving it.
Really?
Will Wheaton, the actor kid?
Wesley set himself up.
Yeah.
He's a bit of a crazy leftist, right?
He's a bit of an asshole. He wants to be the ambassador of all nerds between all nerds and the rest of the world. He also tends to be very preachy and take up political causes, and tends to browbeat or pressure his colleagues in Hollywood into supporting his political campaigns. I know from a friend of Felicia Day that he has pressured her on multiple occasions to go in front of cameras and speak on behalf of political causes that he is into, to the point where she gets panic attacks.
Yeah, that's a good way around which way your politics goes, to lose a lot of people and lose a lot of followers.
His politics remind me more of Milo.
The celebs that keep themselves out of... Look, they have a right to speak their mind, right? Mm-hmm. They are celebrities. They have a voice. But those that take the option to go, I'm not gonna talk about my personal politics here. I'm not going to try to persuade you to vote one way or the other. I'm kind of backing out. Those are the people that I find actually cool. I don't care if they're left or right. If they decide that, this platform isn't for me, I get it. I'm like, good.
And I generally agree, but those people like Taylor Swift, who do stay out of politics, who get attacked for staying out of politics. Like when she said something about, 2016 or 2017 being a good year for her, and people were like freaking out all over.
Oh yeah.
Well, yeah, they were trying to figure out. They thought she voted for Donald Trump and started saying she was an alt-right, she was a Nazi, blah blah blah, and that's mainly blown over as far as I remember. She's too big for this thing to swamp her down.
Too many girls my age look up to her, and guys.
Sure.
She's just freaking tall.
Of all the role models to have, she's probably one of the healthier ones in Hollywood.
Nah, she still does her fuckery. I mean,
yes, but
still,
it's less political.
She's still a trick.
Ask Tom Hiddleston how that went.
Wait, she and Tom Hiddleston had a thing?
Oh yeah,
man, everybody she's had a thing with get songs written about them.
No, like Hiddleston was like, dude, she's like psycho.
I know she's been with a lot of guys, and her.
Don't quote me on that.
A lot of her moves are to make a song about the guy and just rip him down. That's all I really know about her. But
she's rich, so she's likely insane.
All I know is that people I hate did not like her for not joining in politics. So I like her for
Well-
not joining in politics just for the sake
I agree.
of being the voice of the insanity.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we've
Yep.
already got a potential musician running for president. What, 2 years from now?
What, Eminem?
Was that Kid Rock?
No, Kanye.
Oh God.
Like
Dragon energy.
as a Republican, no less. Like
Who? Kanye?
Kanye.
Kanye would be the shitpost vote.
It
Are you
would,
kidding?
but in okay,
You don't want President Easy? President Easy?
Yeezy.
No.
I'd be quicker to go Slim Shady than Yeezy.
Okay, when I ask if you don't want you don't want President Easy, it's in the same sense that you don't want President Colonel the Clown. It's not
Mickey
meant to be a
Mouse.
serious question.
Yeah.
No, I mean seriously, Kanye's an artist, and that's about the extent on. That's why he has that. That's why he gives off that aura of "I'm better than you."
How do I put it this way? Even when I agree with Kanye, how do I put it this way? Someone once said, "There's nothing I hate worse than a bad argument for a belief system I hold dear." And all the
Yes.
conservatives who are tying their boat to Kanye, I'm like, you may want to back the hell off a little bit because he's going to say some other shit you're not going to like later on. He's going to say some other things that are silly in some other direction. So he's not who I would tie my boat to.
Back when I was listening to Ben Shapiro's podcast, he said that quite a bit. Hey, let's Kanye, cool for you, good for what you're doing, but you're not us. Roseanne Barr, you're not healthy for us. Stay away.
Very Ben Shapiro.
Yeah, I mean, I find him fairly compelling. There's some things that I hear him say that I go, all right, he's absolutely wrong on this bullshit. But on other times, I'm like, he's fairly reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
I like reasonable people.
I like listening to him about news because he hates Trump, but he's not someone who's far leftist either, who hates him just because of being triggered by, he's triggered by different things. How do I put it this way? I feel like I'm going to get a fair shake because he's not a Trump fanboy, but he's also not as, Trump derangement syndrome. Maybe a little bit, but not much.
Yeah, sure. I can get that.
I want sanity in politics too. I would be more than happy for an adult to, be running the country. So yeah, if someone is like a policy wonk but ran for office, I would be ecstatic.
So like Ted Cruz.
I'm sorry, I said policy wonk and not the Zodiac Killer.
Oh, yeah, you didn't qualify the Zodiac Killer. My bad.
Okay, I don't want anyone who has an actual active affiliation with Michael Cernovich with. I want nothing related to politics and Michael Cernovich. That includes Ted Cruz.
Does he? I didn't know that. And
All I
I
know
would
is that
agree with you.
Ted
He's an
Cruz
affiliation
seems
with
to
Ted
pick-
Cruz.
Ted Cruz appears to pick up an awful lot of cultural fights that Michael Cernovich specifically brings up and tries to popularize. It's happened so many times now that I can't chalk it up to coincidence.
Do you think that, just to sit back for a moment, in this landscape where Trump is president, and he's got so many people behind him for his battles on the cultural front, that Ted Cruz is trying to pick up a little bit of that? I mean, I wouldn't blame him, but picking Mike Cernovich is probably the worst thing you can do, outside of teaming up with Milo, let's say. That guy, both of them are a disaster. And here's the problem I have is we don't like what the left does, with some of what the left does in terms of going back and trying to get people fired for things that they've said. And the right has been mostly, let's say the right that are honest to a certain extent. We'll go back to Ben Shapiro, right? They don't believe in that. Libertarians don't believe in that. But you have people on the right now, Cernovich and his gang. That's what they do.
I've seen.
They want to attack fire with fire.
Yeah,
and it's bullshit. You've got to make a line. You have to say, we will not. If this is bad, we're not going to follow you into badness.
When I first saw the prospect of trying to weaponize people's employers against them, I saw that for right-wing circles. It was primarily from a libertarian argument, from a libertarian side, saying they claimed it was a free speech argument, saying it's their free speech to pressure an employer to fire someone. And
I've not.
Yeah.
Well, it depends on what libertarians you're talking to. I've not heard that from any libertarians I listen to.
That's good, because
they all
very much so an intellectually dishonest argument from their point.
Yeah, absolutely. Check out the Fifth Column. That's a pretty good podcast, and they cover this quite a bit.
All I know is that it's a race. It's a race to the bottom. No one's going to win it, and it's just going to make the world a shittier place to live in until the extremists just are enough people get them to fuck off.
Yeah,
and it's going to take years. It took decades for the fucking evangelicals to fuck off.
Dude, our culture is in a shit spot right now.
Mm-hmm.
The institutions that were the stewards or the bulwark of that culture pre-internet are not adapting well to the internet. So we're in a period of chaos, so to speak, before new norms are established and new institutions crystallize, so to speak. And anything's in the air.
Like to see.
I wouldn't even say that it's just because of the internet that.
I would put
it's
80% of it on the internet.
Well, 80% of it, I can agree with, as that is their tool.
It's the social dynamics instead of the top down. These handful of news sources plus Hollywood pretty much being the main sources of information the majority of people get their cultural knowledge from. It's become a lot more dispersed. You can't have so many cases of a few people deciding what message to push to the rest of the nation. Not enough people listen to late night talk show anymore. Not enough people listen to any one source anymore.
Right. Yep, absolutely.
And that makes dissemination of knowledge to be a very different beast that those in charge have not yet found a way to recover the same degree of influence they had pre-internet.
Did we all take however much you ascribe to these political compass tests? Have we all taken them? I've taken a couple of them.
I've taken a couple. Yeah.
Center-left libertarian is where I generally line up.
Yeah, I'm right-leaning libertarian. I don't think I get as much libertarian as I should, or as I should. But that's because I think some of the questions were asked: is it a good idea to, or should you, versus should you be allowed to? Because there's a ton of things I'll say you should be allowed to. Like should be allowed to tongue punch a light socket if you really want. I just don't think it's a good idea. So if you ask it, should you? I'll say no. If you ask, should you be allowed to? I'll say yes.
Here's an argument from the libertarian side that I don't completely understand. And I don't know how closely it is linked with gender dysphoria, but there are people that when they're born, they think that they don't, their left arm is not really a part of them. And they seek out surgical procedures to chop them off, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how closely linked that is, but libertarians, some of their argument is, well, why not? It's their choice. And I get that to a certain extent, but now we're just mutilating people. And I'm not talking about transgenderism or gender dysphoria. I think that's a different subject, but we don't know how the mind, what processes go through somebody's mind to make them gender dysphoria or this other thing where they're lopping off pieces of their body because they think they don't fit. How closely are those things linked? I think the lopping off of arms is certainly more of a serious thing than, at least at this point, than transgenderism, especially when we talk about young kids. But I don't know how a society allows people to do that ad hoc. Like, you can just decide, hey, man, my left leg, I don't need it. It's something that I don't think belongs there. And I forget what they call that type of people.
I'm trying to remember. I think it's something amputee. I don't remember.
Body integrity disorder.
That's what it is.
That's it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I mean, here's the thing. You'll have. I believe that, if somebody thinks that, hey, look, well, I just feel like, my left leg needs to go. Before they do something crazy and hurt themselves, like the first time I came across it, when this guy was very intent on saying that my left leg needs to go, and went so far as to stick his leg and wrap it around dry ice to the point it became dead to get his limb chopped off.
Yeah. They do that because not a lot of doctors will lop off the leg or the arm. And that's it's a sad thing to have to do. Kill your own body part just to get that surgery. But you are going to be on a lifetime of disability, right?
That's not. I'm not sure if that's really a living wage in most places in the U.S.
I know. That's right. Having your leg lopped off or your arm lopped off kind of narrows your career choices. And I don't know how that feeds into my argument as a whole, because generally I'm up for somebody being able to say, this may hurt me, but it's something I want to do. Smoke marijuana, whatever. And generally, I think they have the right to do it. But when it gets down to this kind of stuff, I still can't wrap my brain around it.
I would be hesitant to really associate individuals who want to lop off a leg or an arm with transgender persons, as that seems to be. I've never really heard those two groups of people together beforehand.
Well, there was an article written about them recently, and the scientists say that we're not sure how closely those synapses in the brain are related. So yes, I was trying to be very careful about associating them together, and I don't want to. But based on this article, it sounds like we're just not sure yet. My gut tells me they're not.
We're not going to be sure for quite
a
few years. Our knowledge of the human brain is not anywhere close to that point.
Probably even decades.
Absolutely.
In my mind. To the point where you would figure that out, unless you pour a crap ton of money and time and research into it. But looking exactly at that, but that's just such a small sect of people in the grand scheme of things. I think mapping the whole human brain would be they would see that as a better way to spend that money, instead of like, oh, let's figure out what this insane group of people that just cut off limbs randomly, like what's going on in their heads.
Yeah, associating them with trans persons seems more along the line of associating of people who do bestiality with homosexuals. It just seems to be really an association that probably is a bit far-reaching in the logic.
Yeah, I get that, but that is a bit of an extreme. But you could come back from bestiality.
Yeah, you can't come back from
cutting off your arm or having a sex change. It's very hard. And that's the only reason, because they're both types of body image dysphoria where you don't believe something about yourself as you were born is the way it's supposed to be. And that's it. I don't want to hit that any harder. I just thought that it was an interesting parallel that, as we were talking about this, to bring up.
Yeah, because I mean, if you really, that could be brought into any other like number of segues. There's people. I mean, there's been TV skits about people who literally alter their face to look more like an animal from other kin. I mean, if you want to go for types of dysphoria,
Oh yeah,
it's
absolutely.
there's quite a just quite a broadcast of I'm not sure characters is the right word, subcultures, groups. There's so many types of dysphoria that you can pick any number of them, and they would all sound crazy. And it just doesn't seem right to associate with trans.
Hey, yep, your call. I'm merely reading something. I've not considered it before. Not considered it before, but I saw an interesting parallel there, and we're just not sure. So I'm not ready to ascribe that they're the same thing.
Okay.
Just thought it was interesting. So
I came into this conversation in the middle. It's just on the show notes. I'm just genuinely curious how whatever is in the show notes ended up got onto here.
Yeah. So it was. We were discussing. Or Adrian was discussing his weird group of the week, which was the Black Israelites, and then you guys joined, and we kind of were in a tangent on just different groups, and then it kind of just led into continuing to talk about these different groups. So that's why we're at this segment of the show notes.
Okay.
Hey everyone.
Hello.
I'm paying attention.
So where are we in the show notes right now?
Well,
number 2.
The Black Hebrew Israelites, I think.
Okay, so I'm not that bad.
And by the way,
where's Israel? This would be fucking perfect for him.
He's on vacation.
It's appropriate to culture. But anyway, continue.
Can you put in the end of the show notes a little bit from DEF CON / B-Sides Las Vegas? There's a few things I did want to say. I would have said last week, but I was sick in bed with a nasty fever.
All right, sounds good.
Oh.
Well, not good that you had a fever. Good that you've got something for the show notes.
Oh yes, I spoke with the Department of Justice individual and FBI individual about one of their active efforts related to CFAA policy. So it's some interesting updates and also some information I'm trying to find out for the next time I speak with the DOJ guy that I would like to be better prepared.
Oh, is this number 8 on the list?
If that's the last item, then I guess so.
Okay, cool. Want to make sure I wasn't missing anything, bro. B-side / DEF CON follow-up. Cool.
Oh, excuse me.
Yeah, I think every year, right, Adrian, we can expect these things for a couple more months.
Of what exactly it was?
Well, basic hits from the Black Hat DEF CON conference, whether it be tools released or new methods or what have you, actual breaches, whatever.
Cool. All right. Well, I think we've gotten a lot out of the second point. Let's move on to the next point, which is wait a minute, which is this PC Mag article that I found while I was scrounging around for points for the podcast tonight. More than 1.1 million lost to cybercrime every minute. So if we wait a minute, that's from this article. This is what the figures are. It's a good read.
You could have done a countdown there.
I could have. Damn, I should have. I'm going to do that now. I'm going to do that. As I'm talking, I'm going to set a timer now while I'm explaining what this goes into, because it actually goes pretty deep into all these things. So I'm going to set myself up for a minute here, and you'll probably hear my phone go off whenever that's done. All right. And then we'll have lost 1.1 million to cybercrime. Does it say cybercrime? Okay, no, good. It says cybercrime. I'm not sharing my screen. There we go. Application window.
Yeah. All,
There we
yeah,
go.
all those estimates, they are so wildly all over the place, primarily due to estimates of intellectual property loss. Like
Right.
how to
Yeah.
ascribe value to that.
So
So you
this,
have things like 100 million a year to 2 trillion a year. It's just an enormous range.
yeah. So
and then
this is
the
from
overall impact to the company, right? Some companies just they get hit, they lose a lot of money, and it doesn't affect them in stocks or reputation or what have you.
So what I found interesting about this is they also have this graphic on here, which is pretty interesting. So we have 2.7 million cybercrime victims a day, and my timer. There we go. We just lost another whatever it was I just said. No, not repeat. Now it's going to go off again. But what's cool about this is I would like to see a comparison from the year before and on how much ransomware or how much money people are losing off of ransomware, because that wasn't a huge thing until last year with WannaCry. And in my very small experience in InfoSec, I don't know if you guys have something different on that.
Not really.
Okay.
I just figured that the more glitzy, the more work that appears to have been put into a graphic, the less. I guess maybe it's a bit of a heuristic in my part, but the less I trust the source.
Yeah, that's fine. And
It's
this is
nothing personal. Nothing personal.
No, and it wasn't me that made the graph. I thought it was interesting to see that they were putting the figures there. Hey, we just lost another one.
Did they say where to get the data from?
Risk IQ, which is a cybersecurity firm. I don't know where they're stationed. I will Google that real quick.
Yeah,
So this is a PC Mag article. Risk IQ. Let's see how credible these guys are. I should have done this before. Woo! Risk IQ is a cybersecurity company based in San Francisco, California. It provides cloud-based software as a service for organizations to detect phishing, fraud, malware, and other online security threats. So this is just from their data, and it seems like they have a pretty large client base for them to be getting these numbers.
I'll just try to find out where they're publishing those numbers. Did they publish their own study, and did their study get information from somewhere else? Where's the root information from?
Verizon DBIR.
It's probably from Verizon or IBM. Well, no. Okay, so apparently, if you want to get all of this research, you have to give your first name, last name, email address, country, phone number, company name, job role.
Yeah.
Well,
so
hold
Risk
up.
IQ
Okay, Mr.
did
John
their
Doe.
own,
John Doe at
Risk
555-5555.
No, I do 111-111-1111.
Yeah, just put fake news in there. But
Fake
Risk
news at
IQ does do
Infowars.com.
their own investigation, and so Verizon DBIR is one, Risk IQ is another. There's several of them.
There's several of these, and this is just one of them. And I think I saw this while I was scrolling through Twitter today from why am I forgetting his name? Troy Hunt. He posted this today.
Oh, yeah,
Really?
There's
Troy
a lot
Hunt.
of
yeah, he retweeted.
well, there's a lot of there's some pressure on Troy Hunt recently.
Really?
Yeah, I might be able to point out some sources here. Once my eyes get acclimated to my screen, I've had a couple of drinks, so.
Okay.
Yeah. So he's been taking some heat lately about his sources.
Shocker.
Yeah, not really, but yeah. I know what you were saying.
Sarcasm.
I know.
I still want HTML to come out with a sarcasm tag. That would be funny.
Yeah.
But anyway, this is a cool article I found. The graphic is cheesy, but still good information regardless. And if you want to give away your life to Risk IQ, go ahead and grab the research.
Or, I'll give him bullshit information like a smart person.
Shh, we don't condone that. We don't, but I am nodding my head in a form of yes to say that we do not do that ever.
Right.
So I don't have a visual cue, but you should definitely catch the fact that I'm nodding my head in real life right now to say that we do not do that. Anyway, and another reason why I brought this up was my friend and I were having drinks yesterday, and he posed this question on like, are we doing better or worse in cybersecurity and than other countries? And I was like, it depends on what field you're looking in, and also like what are your factors. There's a lot of stuff we're improving on, but there's still a lot of stuff that comes on every year. So this is kind of one of those studies where it's like you can see all this information if you want to find it, but I don't know. Then we got into a whole conversation about US versus Russia, and it was a very interesting conversation to have, but not cybersecurity related. It's always fun when a computer scientist and a political science major go toe to toe.
But they're a part of STEM.
Jack, I
What?
just got out. I just got out of college. Why did you have to do that to me, man? I'm trying not to swear on the podcast anymore, man. You're making it real hard.
At some point, are we going to dive into this? I've seen so many posts on DerbyCon posts about roofies. Are we going to talk about that, Adrian? What do you feel?
Look at the chat. Something's going on. Listen to what I'm about to type into the damn chat.
Okay.
I can throw that under the new section. Social media is fun. ... We can talk about that there. DerbyCon BS. All right, you got that there, and we'll get to that shortly because I have a fun little.
Read what I said in the chat.
Read what you said.
Don't announce it. Don't read it out loud.
Okay.
If you can help, thank you.
Okay. So we are not talking about that. Are we? Should I remove that from show
I'd rather
notes?
not talk about it right now.
All right. I will remove it from.
Yeah, that makes sense.
We're working on
After what he
something.
typed, it makes sense not to talk about it. But I know you all are going to DerbyCon, and I've seen just many posts on this roofie thing, and I hope it's not true. I don't believe it's true. I didn't hear anything when I was there. But again, I'm not 22 years old in the mix of the party scene. So
apparently there was a person off-site who believes the drink was rude. It did not happen at DerbyCon directly. They were there for DerbyCon, so it happened in Louisville. That's my understanding of the situation.
Yeah,
Okay.
but I mean, if you're around, if you're around 4th Street Live, treat your drinks with the club rule.
Cover or have it in your hand.
No. Don't cover it. If you put it down and it's out of your sight for a second, that's no longer your drink.
right.
Agreed.
Yeah. Even then, I've been to a schmoocon where drink never left my sight, but that was something within that liquor. Something within there. I had not a very fun 2 days afterwards.
Yeah. I'm not saying you're not pretty enough that someone might not want to take sexual advantage of you, but a lot of dudes get roofied too, get mugged.
Yeah, I mean, I've been roofied. But
Yeah, I've been roofied as well.
To my knowledge, I've been so passed out drunk before that I've done some shit and not remembered it.
Hey, and GHB is roofied, right?
yes.
Okay, cool. That's what I had back in the day.
But isn't it also
AKA a little forget me not.
Forget me nots. Beautiful flowers. Beautiful flowers. All right. Well, next up, ever had bad tequila? Try dark tequila, which is a banking Trojan that is running through Mexico right now. I have a better one for this. Where is
I have a question.
answer?
Does anyone know where I can get some tequila right now?
Liquor store.
Liquor store.
I don't
store.
have an ability to get it to a liquor store right now, sadly.
There's some places where you can order it and have it delivered to your house. I don't know in your area, but
Yeah,
that's an option.
We had that in Europe. Guys would like order these like 30 € whiskey bottles, and it's like, what the hell?
Maybe not tequila, but boxed wine if you're just looking to get drunk.
Yeah, that might work too.
No, I remember that back in the day in Germany where I would, where I would order food and I could order liquor to go along with it.
Yep. I kind of missed that as well, but
And cigarettes.
You can't order liquor with food anymore?
No, I
Not
mean
like
delivery.
Yeah, like delivery.
Oh, dude.
Oh, got it.
Yeah,
Europe,
you can do that.
Having 4 or 5 kamikazes is almost like being roofied.
Does someone think the name means something?
Those motherfuckers are strong. They were like a stronger version of Long Island iced teas. They've got like every liquor mixed into it. It tastes pretty good, but man, they will knock your socks off.
Is it kind of like an adios motherfucker?
I can paste the ingredients in the channel, but just to sidetrack a little bit with the story here.
Yeah, go for it.
When I was just getting out of college, I was doing some brown bagging where we would go around. It was a political thing. And it was one job that I could find that I could do during the day and still make my classes. But we had gone to several bars, and we were with the group of people that were also doing this. There was a gay guy with us, which I was friends with him. I enjoyed him. He taught me what the rainbow flag meant back in the day. Like, I had no idea that was a symbol of gay pride. And we went to 4 bars, and then we ended up, he goes, I know another one. We ended up in a gay club. And I had been hit with so many kamikazes at that point. I didn't know where I was at. It was a strange experience.
I was about to say
nothing happened.
That's strange. That's strange because every time I've gone to a gay club, nothing has happened. But it should always happen to my friend. I wound up having to knock somebody out.
Nothing happened. It was just I was overwhelmed by the intoxication I felt. Nobody tried to assault me. Nobody tried to. Well, the one guy in the stripper pole tried to make some moves on me, but I cut him off. There was a hot Puerto Rican chick that was a couple years older with me. I stuck around her.
Wasn't she like the one chick in the bar too?
There were 2 of them, but yeah, she was the one that I hung with. She worked with us, so.
Yeah, I remember. I think I remember you telling me this story or telling the story at some point.
Yeah,
I think it was offline. Yeah.
It was the one time that I've ever unknowingly went into a gay club. I don't mind them; they're fun, but being totally off your ass with this dude that keeps just ordering kamikazes for you. Yeah,
it's a nice time, man. At least he was the one buying them. That's how I would view it, but that's just me. All right.
Gotcha.
So back to our software liquor. Dark tequila is a sophisticated banking malware targeting victims in Mexico. It essentially is taking financial information such as any other banking Trojan does, downloads a payload, or blah 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 blah. Malware gets put onto your user's computer. It then connects to a remote command and control server and downloads a payload. And the main way that this has been spreading.
Wait.
Yep.
Don't scroll up because they talk about now. This is super common. I don't know why this would be a. I mean, it's got to be a news item, but it says one thing that makes this unusual, and then you skip over that part.
Okay, sorry. Yeah.
So malware on a machine connecting to the CNC server, that's not unusual at all.
Nope. Yeah. So Kaspersky believes Dark Tequila has been active since 2013. I forgot to mention this part. So this has been around for about 5 years now, primarily in Mexico. The outfit's main weapon is an advanced malware program with the Russian security firm described as unusually sophisticated. And apparently I can't speak today. Based on the company's analysis of the code, it believes the developer is Spanish-speaking and Latin American in origin. So, and like I said before, at the heart of it, it just grabs banking credentials and personal and corporate data and silently sits in a user's hard drive. Slurps up services like Rackspace, Bitbucket, and Dropbox, which can be used further down the line to stage additional attacks. So if you've got stuff on like your SSH keys that you use for Bitbucket, which is usually the way that I have set them up in the past with my development teams. Those might be compromised, which would be weird, or which would be bad. All that fun stuff. But
sure.
For the complexity of it, there's a quote from Dmitry Bestufin. Dmitry from head of the global research.
I think you got it right, bro.
But yeah, I'm usually good at Russian names because I have.
I thought that was right.
Bestufin. No, I'm screwing it up. It's probably Chev because I think the Z does a ch. I don't remember. Anyway, at first sight, Dark Tequila looks like any other banking Trojan, hunting information and credentials for financial gain. Deeper analysis, however, reveals a complexity of malware not often seen in financial threats. The code's modular structure and its obfuscation and detection mechanisms help it avoid discovery and deliver its malicious payload only when the malware decides it is safe to do so. So that means it's checking that in a sense, that's basically saying it's checking for antivirus software. And when I read that, and waiting until it's sure that it won't get seen by it. But what's interesting is the delivery method for this is the same as Stuxnet, where it's just people are plugging in USBs and throwing these onto different machines to have it run the malware. So the firm offered some generic but still useful advice, including disabling auto-run on USB devices and avoiding connecting unknown devices and USB sticks into your computer. Duh.
What?
Not supposed to.
Right?
We're not supposed to do that? We're not supposed to grab this thing?
How old? Yeah, how old is that?
Stuxnet is about...
That awareness to not do that. And from a system standpoint, that should be blocked, right? I mean, who doesn't?
You would think.
Well, I mean, it depends on what your organization's stance is on USB-enabled devices.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but there are so many solutions where you can manage the USB drive so that it's only approved serial numbers and manufacturers.
Yeah, but
that the company hands out.
But even
auto run is always disabled.
Yes, but even that, when you whitelist USB devices based upon serial number or manufacturer, it's a pain in the fucking ass.
We did it, and it was not a pain in the ass. But maybe it is for
Well,
other
I mean,
organizations.
when you're
I don't want to speak to that.
when you're talking about the large organizations such as the one that I just left, it was a pain in the ass because they would buy these things in bulk.
How many
So-
users did you guys have? Do you mind saying?
I'm not at liberty to disclose, but it was a lot.
Okay. Yeah. I get it.
More than a small number.
But at the very least, auto run should be disabled. I don't see a reason for anybody to need that. That's not something that is generally something that people need, like auto run. Why? You have to have a pretty good reason for that. But in any case, I'm talking defense here.
Yeah, that's
I
fine.
I was whitelisting
Derailing the
50
conversation.
I was whitelisting
No, it's
50
on
to
point.
100 hard drives a day.
Yeah, like
I get it, man.
yeah, and that was on point. That's a good point to say. Like this should be pretty. It should be pretty easy for people not to go out, see a flash drive, and be like, "Hey, look at this! It says porn on it. Let me go plug this into my computer." Oh shit!
Well, like 10 or 15 years ago, and even now, that is a social engineering trick.
Yep.
Drop some shit in the parking lot, or mail it in, or whatever, under false pretenses. You mail it to them, they stick it in. Goddamn.
But then it comes down to what I said last week, which was user education is free.
Yeah.
It's cheap.
We talked about this a few weeks ago. There was an article where they were sending malware to journalists and by mailing them with, here's some, information for a campaign you're running. I mean, there's all kinds of ways to backdoor that shit in.
Mm-hmm.
There is. But disabling auto run is a key thing to do. But, you can still have malware embedded Word documents or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's not a catch-all.
Yeah, and even disabling auto run, how many users do you think is going to be like, oh, I just needed to go run this thing, like, what's this thing? Click it out, just pure curiosity, and then it takes over the machine.
Open Word doc.
I just would like to hear a good argument for auto run.
Nope, you won't hear one from me.
Video game CDs, but that's it.
Ones you made yourself, yes. Well, that's one of the things we used to do. We would drop USBs in parking lots, and we would say Doom 3 exe, and we'd have it auto run. And if they didn't auto run it, they'd click it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Full game, whatever.
Yeah, the only time that
was way back in the day.
Yeah, the only time that I could think of having auto run be on for anything is if it's but this is old, back like 10 years ago, where you would buy PC games and they would be in like these 5 CD like trays or whatever, these 5 CD boxes, and the only time that I would ever let auto run do anything would be if it was something like that, but we don't use that anymore. Most of it is digital anyway. It's digitally signed to a CD, but yeah.
Not just USBs too. I mean, it basically disables any kind of auto execution, whether that's mailed or whatever. I mean, what if you have an actual malicious actor on your network wanting to plug in, say, a Pony Express onto there, and that's one bit of low-hanging fruit that you can easily get rid of.
Yes, and then that's why you have DLP.
DLP is not going to protect you from that, but an EDR toolkit might.
No, like I said, I don't. Well, fuck it. Within Intel Security HBSS platform, there's DLP, which is what prevents USB drives from auto running, or you plug it in and it instantly blocks it.
Gotcha.
Hey,
and then it's logged, and then that's what the acronym DLP I'm talking about, not data layer
protection.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a couple of questions from the chat here if you guys Want to go look?
Yeah, we'll take a look at those.
Um,
Let's see.
Yeah. We discussed no degree requirement news that came out recently.
No degree.
Somebody said UUID or whatever doesn't help. I'm not sure what they're referring to. If we're just encapsulating it to UUID, there's more, whatever. There's more
Okay.
to it than that, but
So what's this no degree requirements news that came out?
yeah. Darren asked for a link, so I think we're waiting on that.
Okay, because that would be interesting, because I literally just got a degree.
Well, yeah.
just
So
graduated.
I recently had a job fall through because this place is a stickler for degrees, even in IT.
Mhm.
And I completed 2 years. My son was born. I didn't finish it.
Mhm.
So they go, well, our requirement says you have to do this. And if we're audited, that's going to be a problem for us. So we can only accept people. And apparently this position's been open for 6 months. They can't find anybody to fill it.
Wonder why.
And I've actually back I used to work for a company that was a major SIM card manufacturer, and the requirement they had was you had to have a 4-year degree, and it was like
Yeah.
the other people we actually lost. I mean, I interviewed people, at least 2 people who were perfect for the role. They had every skill required, but because they didn't have a degree, we couldn't even look at them. It was like, are you shitting
That's what
me?
the manager told me, is that I was the most qualified candidate to come across her desk, and they've been having issues with this college degree requirement. Like I did 2 years, but I plan to finish it, but they've been losing people and haven't been able to fill the role. So whatever.
Wow,
Yeah.
what a twist!
Yeah, and that's interesting, because even with the whole you've got, I'm gonna assume that you have plenty of certifications to go along with your experience as well, or at least past certifications at least.
Oh, sure.
So that even
Now,
even
now I'm not a CISSP person, obviously.
well, that's fine.
I don't put a lot of stock and trade into it, but OSCP, that sort of thing. The SANS course certification. So
Yeah, so like that kind of stuff from someone who's been who just finished a 4-year degree. That stuff I'm looking ahead as like that's my next challenge and it's going to be like OSCP sounds like a huge challenge to me, just from what I've heard from it.
Yeah,
and where even some guys that are sorry.
It's supposed to be pretty tough.
Yeah, just from guys that I have met that are in the industry, from you guys who have who's taken it, and also talking with Charles too, who's sadly not on the podcast to talk about this. Where it's tough, and like and guys fail it multiple times.
So it is a realistic simulation of skills, and college degrees really aren't. They mean you went through a 4-year degree, whatever. But it's not the security folks that have a problem with it. It's senior leaders. So,
and mostly it's HR.
You know what? HR is completely against the policy. And it's true in a lot of cases that it is HR. But in this case, HR was like, we lose out on so many good people because of this requirement. We've been working with senior leadership to get this thing dropped off. In today's day and age, a lot of professionals do not go through the degree program.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. So,
it's
whatever.
Just quite possible.
It looked like a nice opportunity, but I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, it's quite possible to have a contractual requirement where
they do.
It's whatever. Yeah. So at that point, it's a whole can of worms to get renegotiated.
Their fear is that it's a requirement on the job description. If they're audited, something happens, They go through the audit. The auditor goes through the job requirements and then starts working through people that were hired. And if they don't meet the basic qualifications, then there's going to be an issue. So I get it. I'm not putting blame on the company. I told the manager and the HR person it made sense, and they go, absolutely does not make sense. And I go, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
And take this as someone who actually does have a 4-year degree. I learned more in my first 4 years of working. I mean, way more than I did my 4 years in college. Like,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it
Yeah,
taught me some
dude.
basics, but there was so much more I learned about practical applications of the knowledge.
Dude, when I went, the thing that I noticed most was the easiness of the program and how many people hopped out when things got tough. So, like my C# development class, ASP.NET C# class, we ended up with 3 people in a class that was originally 75. They dropped out. They left the class. It was too hard.
Yep.
They taught us to write in a way that's not prudent to write in a organization. You can't write the way they want you to write. I'm not interested in doing book reports for my diploma. I mean, I'll do them, but where is that going to get me?
I had a similar situation with the first program, like the first class in my degree program was programming in Python. And
oh, you're young.
Yeah, we've established this many times.
I know, but I see Liz's face up here, so I think it's Cat talking, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah, it's me. So at one point at the beginning of the semester, and I've been seeing, and this just goes for any class really. In my college experience, it starts out with everyone shows up to these general courses, and this programming class was considered a general course. You needed to take this, get a B or an A to even continue on into major. And it started off with, there were 2 sections, each of which had about 30 students per each, and I was in the second session, which was the 10 o'clock session. And there was a 9 o'clock session right before then. So the professor had 2 hours back to back of classes for his sections. I went to the first section one day because I had a class get out early and I can make it. And I got in there and there's like 5 people, myself included. And then I look at the second section and it's about 10 people. And this is after the second week.
Oh, it was worse for me because I went into college in 2004. So this was right at the height of, computers are a great way to make money. That's when ITT Tech and all of them had all the advertisements on there for going to college, learn computers, make more money.
Right.
People were in there just for that, and it didn't work out too well. Like, I remember people just dropping out of the first semester, and it was like, really?
Yeah.
Did you think this would be that easy?
Did you guys have to take like Microsoft Word classes?
No, I actually looked at it.
I did not have to, but I did for an easy A.
Yeah.
And actually,
it was so easy.
I ended up using it in my job a lot more than I thought I would, for report writing, for writing up documentation for clients,
Sure.
as well as making SQL insert scripts.
I've been using it for like 6 or 7 years. So it was like taking the classes. Now, what was off-putting, like all Microsoft tests, is they go, open a new file. And you'd use a shortcut to open it.
Fail.
And it fails the question because you're supposed to go up to file and then open. And if you don't follow that, you fail.
You fail.
Fail the question.
So I found that article that our audience gave us. So Google Google and Apple ditch college degree requirement. More than a dozen companies, including Google, Apple, and IBM, are no longer requiring applicants to have a college degrees. Why this matters: many jobs have historically required employers to hold college degrees, even if they are not relevant or needed. This is connected to an effort to improve diversity and make it easier for those that attend coding boot camps to pursue other non-traditional college paths to be hired. Now, with those, okay. The boot
All right,
the
so
boot camp thing is a little sketchy for me because you still have to realize that these people are learning. As long as employers know that, that's okay, because you're only
Yeah.
getting a real base knowledge of like I've run those kind of boot camps and hired people on, and then or I've been a part of those boot camps, and then they get hired on, and I wasn't a part of management, so it wasn't my responsibility to train them. But then they wouldn't get any sort of extra training, or they wouldn't do it on their own, and it was just not that they were required to, but it was kind of implied. But yeah, it's just it's
Gotcha.
a danger. It's I'm being a cynic about it, but it's kind of a dangerous path, if that's what I'm saying. And that's the thing I'm getting at. With just holding boot camps, like if they specifically hold the knowledge, if they do, if they have the certifications, which is why they put in other non-traditional college paths. Like if they have a 2-year and then they have a bunch of certifications and they actually present themselves as having the skills, or they have other experience in it. Like say you work as a sysadmin for like 4 years, but you don't have a degree, and you go to another company and they're going to see, oh, you don't have a degree, but you have 4 years of experience. It's a toss-up either way. Jack, what were you going to say?
Working through 20 years experience, which is just nonsense to go, hey, we also require a degree. Okay.
And I think a lot of that comes down to like either compliance.
It's a directive from their senior leadership. So whatever, I don't want to belly moan about it anymore. It was just something that stuck in my craw for a few days. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I mean, I've been in situations like that where I have a 2-year degree, and then the person that was underneath me, had a master's degree, and yet I could run circles around them. But and it was always arguments back and forth. They were like, "Well, you need to train them," and I was like, "You guys said he was work ready."
Oh yeah, or those folks that come in with just the CISSP, and you're supposed to go, "Whoa, this guy knows something." Yeah, he read a book. Not that hard to pass the CISSP. It's expensive. I'm not going to do it.
We've gone into this a lot. Check our last week's podcast for an extensive.
Oh, I know.
On that,
I go into it all the time when I go on these rants. I'm a curmudgeon about certain security certificates, and I really don't want the audience getting the. If you guys feel or your work needs you to get a CISSP, do it.
Yeah, especially if they're going to pay for it.
Yeah, and that's just a personal choice for me.
And another thing too, if you encounter someone with a CISSP, do not. I would not hold because the first person
all right, Cap. I'll see you at DerbyCon. I will see you at DerbyCon.
What have I? All right.
You'll see me too, Jack. Do you have a CISSP, Jack?
Yes.
No.
Okay.
Well,
CISSP doesn't say.
Let me finish what I was about to say, because it's actually.
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna get you, Jack.
I'll help you out.
Now it's time for me to interrupt you.
Stop it. Sexual harassment. What I was about to say is, don't look at people's certs. Figure out what they know. Like, they can have the cert, they can have this. As long as you can find out if they actually know the knowledge and can actually perform, that's what you need to go off of. Not just because they have letters. If they have them, go in thinking, okay, they probably have some prior knowledge, and just figure out what that knowledge is. And if they don't, then just work with them on that. You can't just walk in and someone and say, "Oh, CISSP, oh, guy's a fraud," because some of those guys do know their stuff, and some of them have worked a long time in the industry, and there are some, and then I'm just putting this point out there to be like, we're not just saying everyone who has CISSP is a fraud.
No, that's me.
That's just
on
Ricky.
Only Ricky.
Like, the CSSP doesn't say anything about what they do now. It just says to speak management speak. It doesn't say anything about their technical knowledge. They could have technical knowledge they gained from other sources.
Right.
Yeah, so it shouldn't be a super big plus. It shouldn't disqualify you. It's just letters next to your name and on a resume.
Yeah, and where it starts to grind my gears is the little comma CISSP after their profile.
Mm-hmm.
I had a person that was not familiar with security at all that got his CISSP within a week. No security background, no knowledge of security at all. CISSP within a week.
That's
he was a good study.
It's just rote memorization.
That's a bit different. That's someone who uses it as the same way a lawyer would use Esquire.
For sure. Yep.
It's also possible he paid someone in India.
Hey, I'm not saying, Liz, there aren't cracks in my argument, but that's the way I roll.
I
respect
hear you.
people that have their CISSP, of course. But in general, I seem to go, well, they have their CISP. I know you are, but they're not. I wouldn't rule them out of a job, and I certainly wouldn't use that as the primary method of bringing them in. Hey, they got their CISSP. They must know something.
Yeah, you still would have to assess. That needs to be taken into consideration, but not be like the end all be all when you're hiring someone.
Oh, and the other one I forgot to bring up, my 17-year-old cousin got one. What?
Like a CISSP.
So, whatever. A CISSP, yes. Nice. His instructor vouched for him, and he got his certification. So,
well, I mean, because passing the test is easy. Finding somebody who's going to sign off on it regardless, that's easy. It's because IC Squared does fuck all for they do fuck all for auditing. They might audit a certain number. It might be one out of 100. But for the most part, if there's another IC Squared member that signs off on it, it just rolls right through.
How many of you guys have been in the game long enough to remember when the test was like, when people talked about it, they talked about taking it, being there for 8 hours, and completely wiped out when they were done taking it?
I heard anybody talk about that.
What's that?
Have they changed it? I heard people talk about that, but it hasn't been for years.
Yeah.
Did they do it?
No. It's still the like 6 hours or whatever. I mean, fuck. I did it.
My guy passed it in 2 hours, and he was out of there. He wasn't a super bright guy, so take that for what you will. That's anecdotal evidence, but
well, maybe he's just really good at security stuff, or I don't know.
No background in security. I'm telling you.
Oh, it's just your network guy. Yeah.
Oh, don't say that. But yes, you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah, no, never mind. I don't know anything.
I know nothing.
I know nothing. I'm just a stupid kid on a podcast.
Oh, no, you're not.
No, mentally ill people that follow this person fucks with my brain.
Oh gosh. Yeah. I mean, when I took my SSCP, like I said, I was in and out in 2 hours. I passed. my government boss who was in the same place taking the SSCP. He did his and you know he wound up failing, but I think his was like 3 hours. And so that was a little bit of there was a little bit of anger on his part because you know I got mine and he failed, and yeah.
Yeah, you go on the forums on Reddit and you'll see a lot of interesting shit. The CISSP forum, where people are linking the study together and what have you, and people fail over and over and over again.
They're not cut out. They're either one, they're not cut out for it, or two, they're still stuck in there. Well, this is the way we do it in our organization. You just kind of got to throw that all out the window and just go with this is how they want it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's same way that you would approach a class in college. It doesn't matter what you think it is; it's what the professor wants you to think it is. That's how you get your grade.
So Demkeys in chat brought up a really good point that Microsoft certifications. I knew system admins that got the Microsoft certs. It didn't prove they knew the source material at all, or how to work in a business environment where their skills were put to use. They learned it from a book, and they applied those skills to pass the test.
Yeah,
and that's still the same way it is right now, Demkeys. It's still the case.
I actually took the MCSA a long time ago, and yeah, it was basically asking stuff like, "Oh, what does the /W on this command do?" It's like,
oh yeah,
what, I can't check the fucking help pages here. I mean, really?
Or check this out. They would say, "Open up computer management," and if you went run and typed in the app for run to bring up the control panel rather than going start, control panel, whatever, it would fail you again.
Yep.
They're all computerized tests.
Well, the same guy that I told you guys about that I was just speaking about previously, when he got his A+, he got the big fucking head, and he was like, "Well, I don't need to take Network Plus, I don't need to take Security Plus, so I'm just going to go ahead and skip all that right over and go to Windows 7." And I was like, "Well, be careful about that."
And the CCNA was the same. I got my CCNA, and it was like, what the fuck am I taking? It was done in like 45 minutes. It was super easy. CCNP was a little harder. Never went for my CCIA because, I wasn't looking to be a network engineer.
All right.
Enough shitting on. I sound like Jack Daniels here. Enough shitting on certs, I guess.
Well, no, and it's fine because it pertains to the topic that was given from the audience, which we thank you for giving us that, because that is actually kind of poignant.
Yeah, I appreciate whenever they chip in and offer suggestions for the cast. So appreciate that, guys.
Shout out to Demkeys for asking that question.
Yeah, sorry, I've been distracted by doing some possible legal work.
Oh, okay. Don't worry about it. All right. So next up, we've got in the show notes. Let me see. Where am I at? Where are we at? Image conversion to code execution. So this is a terrible write-up.
Can you blow that up a little bit?
Yeah, I can. Let's do that.
All right, cool. Thanks, man.
Yeah. So researcher by the name of Tavis Ormandy found that if you convert JPEGs to GIFs with code inside of them, or just, I think he did this with any image, with any kind of format, you will get, you can get code out. So this is him running ID, or like the bash command ID inside of the terminal from converting that file.
Yeah.
So it was just an interesting find that came across while I was searching for the points for today's podcast.
Not too unsimilar from hiding messages with inside gifts and from those that want to be super secretive. I'm not going to mention. I will bring up terrorists for a minute because they've had the light shined on them for this specific use case here. He's running code rather than specific text.
Yeah.
So hiding messages is just a step down. A step up is hiding code within these images. So.
Right. So yeah, I highly recommend looking at this stuff. Because one, it's cool. Might be a cool little social engineering attack. Again, like, hey, check out this sweet cat picture. But you have to convert it real quick. I don't know. Or a fun little script. I don't know. Like, I've been trying to think of like ways to utilize this in an attack. Hypothetically. And I'm kind of curious what you guys would think of doing that from like an attack perspective. Like, would you like set it up so that this gets past like an antivirus thing, or is an antivirus thing going to pick this up?
Depends on what type. AV probably won't pick it up, but there are other tools like a CrowdStrike or Endgame or potentially even Cylance that detects advanced attacks.
Mm-hmm.
So it does that by, if there's code in the image, it's going to think there's a problem with that.
Okay.
So it can potentially stop it. I'd love to test it, but I don't have CrowdStrike at my in front of me. So
yeah. So guy goes into it. It's a really cool thing, or cool find. And I believe, I'm trying to remember how many things he goes into it a lot farther, and he starts finding users on Linux systems and stuff like that. I believe it just goes off of anything that I believe is Debian. Don't remember. He does a TLDR up here. TLDR song should address that distribution. So he just has distributions.
PowerShell, APS, PDF, and XPS coders, and policy XML by default.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
This would be good for what? If you're on a job and you've moved to the social engineering stage and staying out of the black hat side of things, I think it would be an interesting test. A lot of companies don't have full EDR toolkits, so
yeah, funny enough, that's probably where I'll be ended up, is doing a lot of social engineering stuff. So that's why I was like, this would be a cool little thing. Like, hey, I'm having trouble viewing this image. Could you convert it to a JPEG? I need it for a website. There's an attack side. Woo! There's an attack vector. Hey, I got this thing from a designer, but he only gave it to me in PNG. Can you put it out to a GIF? I need it for web-safe format.
Sure.
That's a good one. Ha! Figured it out.
No, you didn't. I did. Fucker.
Single tear. Single tear for Cappy. Wait, I don't have tears. I'm a skull.
Yeah. I'm just messing, man.
Yeah, no, it's fine. But I was trying to figure out something to like apply it. Like, why would this matter? So that would be a cool way to do it. I'm actually gonna move this 6 point to a further reading spot because it's a fairly large article, and I would.
Can you summarize it for us for later?
Yeah, so I'm throwing this into further reading further reading. I was curious to see, since I've kind of covered this in the past, of what Equifax has been doing since we were approaching, since the breach. I've kind of been researching it since it happened. Like, what are they doing policy-wise? And in that article, they talk with. Let me just go through it real quick. I have it up. Who's the guy? Who's the guy? Farshchi? Oh gosh, what are these names?
Yeah. Sorry, I don't mean to put you on the spot to talk about it. But
it's fine. It's fine. I should have been ready to talk about this. That's my fault. The CIO.
But just quickly, you don't have to go on the whole thing.
Yeah. The CISO of Equifax talked with Wired reporter Lily Hay Newman in her article, and she posted an article about a month ago titled "Equifax Security Overhaul: A Year After Its Epic Breach." Like to think that's an epic breach, and he basically talks with her about what they've been doing and what they're kind of, at a high level, what they've been doing in terms of how are they setting up the business, what are they keeping the same, what are they changing, and all of that fun stuff. So it's a good read. I encourage people to go and read it more than I am describing it. But yeah, I'm going to put that to further reading because it is a fairly long article, as that is a very big topic that I've been waiting for about a year. So, yeah. And then there's also a sub point there where they have this new AI model for compliancy. I don't know if this is compliancy towards security related stuff or financial, but I thought it was an interesting piece of technical news either way. So let's see, what do I have next? All right. So you guys know about like all the election hacks and Russia rigs our elections and everything, right? What if I want to do it? So this lady, Rachel Toback, posted this, I believe, a couple weeks ago at DEF CON, where she gets system level elevated access to the admin panel on a voting machine that is run within 18 states and requires no tools, and is in 2 minutes she has system level access basically. And I thought this was just hilarious find, because she's just removing a hard drive of sorts from the machine itself, as you probably just saw there. She'll back up a little bit so you can see there. So this little side panel, there's this little hard drive device that goes into this voting machine. You can just take this out, and then with a ballpoint pen, you can hit this panel here and just open that up to turn it back on, and then you will have this system level access after just hitting cancel a couple times. Really funny. Thought it was a cool little thing to bring up, and a cool little thing from DEF CON. So, time to move to paper ballots, right?
Or, hear me out here.
Yep.
We could go the same route as West Virginia and use a mobile application called Votes.
What is that? Let me look that up.
It is an abomination of nature. It is voting verified by the blockchain.
No.
Using I shit you not, voting on the verified by the blockchain mobile app. And did I mention that looking at their recruitment pages, they were specifically advertising for people in Eastern Europe, which Ukraine, Russia.
Oh my gosh! No, why? Just paper ballot.
Why does it make it sound like the fucking something from the fucking failed Reddit clone?
Well, that's because blockchain has become the new Node.js hipster tech. Everyone's got to do it.
it's not just that, but the votes. Good God, it's so stupid.
All right. Anyone else?
I'm kind of horrified about the prospect of that shit spreading.
Yeah.
There's a large contingency of the population that wants everybody to vote on everything online.
Well, I'm sure the medium is, they don't care, but online is their solution to it.
Online is their solution to it. I just couldn't imagine how foobarred that would be. If they done it right, maybe. But as far as I know, all of these attacks against the voting machines were done remotely, not in the system or not.
No, this is a voting machine village at DEF CON.
Access.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, when we talk about last year's election, that it was all handled remotely, and they did get into some systems, but every state has kind of their own way of doing these things.
When your adversary is a nation state that you have like hundreds of different jurisdictions, each with their own little voting system set up, is just a matter of resources.
It is.
A nation state the size of Russia can supply.
I'm not downplaying it, but the interesting piece is how much work has gone into researching how much that had an effect on voter systems, and it looks like it did.
Well, I know that the whole voting machine village at DEF CON seemed to be primarily an exercise in shaming voting machine vendors.
It was, yeah, just like car vendors before them. But the thing is they got into it. Look, if you have physical access to an equipment, there is a high percentage chance that you are going to exploit it in some way. Physical access to a machine or to a system is usually game over. But as far as I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, these attacks were carried out remotely. You didn't have physical access to the equipment.
Right.
Which doesn't mean that's any better. And that the voting system and voting machines shouldn't get any better.
SQL injections is what I saw.
Realistically, they have to do a better job of securing these voter machines. And I think moving to an all-in-one solution, like every state uses the same voting machine, the same method, would overall be bad for the country. I think it's interesting and not only interesting, but it helps solve some issues when a nefarious nation state is trying to hack the entire U.S. election system. If everybody uses something different, it takes a lot of time.
Well, here's a different angle on that. You wouldn't necessarily have to hack the entire infrastructure because we have the Electoral College. And I'm thinking, so like we have different states that will have higher electoral votes. So if you can figure out a way, hypothetically, to hit those high value states, which was very, like, if you look it up, some of the states that Trump won were very high value states.
Right, swing states.
Yeah, swing states. Thank you. If you get those swing states and you hack those ones to go your own way, to a point where it's nearly impossible for the other candidate to come back from that, that's how I would see doing it.
Didn't they investigate all of that, though? Hasn't there been a year's worth of investigation into whether or not they were hacked in the swing states? in other
So-
states. That's why I
am-
thought Adrian, I know he's busy, but I think he follows this sort of news. I thought maybe he would lend a
About what
sort of an expertise view on what happened with the voter election.
Not
machines.
totally, but you know, I think baby
Especially,
is half-ass news. As far as I know, no, there's been nothing as far as proof that any machines were hacked. The strongest last thing I saw was some people from Russia bought some Facebook ads, and somehow that influenced everything. And everybody blames a fucking Russian bot for fucking everything. I mean, I've seen some people post shit that has nothing to do with Trump. It's just something they don't like, and it's a far leftist, and they'll say, "Oh, you're a bot. You're a bot." I'm like, "Oh, you're a fucking moron."
yeah. So the big difference is a lot of people, not a lot of people, some people can hack a car when it's in their vicinity. But it gets increasingly hard to do when that car is miles and miles and miles and miles and miles away from you.
Keep in
Unless you
mind that
pop
you're
something
looking
in
at a very narrow slice of the whole problem. If you're actually interested in voting machine security, follow like Matthew Green. He actually has a lot of interesting tweets about this every so often,
No, I
where
think
he
so, too.
complains how majority of people focus on the voting machine specifically and completely ignore the entire back end of the entire voting system, how the votes are, the tallies are moved from place to place, and how all the different election officials communicate.
Yes.
If you're looking to secure the voting system, the voting machines are just one slice.
I think we are talking about that one slice, and it makes sense to start delving into the larger conversation. We're just talking about this one DEF CON example. And from there,
Got it.
we go, okay, they were able to exploit the system when they had hands-on. For me, that doesn't mean a lot outside of they need to improve security on that voter machine. But yes, there is a whole mess of things that we need to improve in our election system. You know, paper ballots was something that I thought people thought was pretty secure, but I don't know if that's the case anymore.
No, because all you have to
So,
all you have to
take that
do
away.
is just either buy off or coerce. Hey, those unused ballots. Why don't you go ahead and hand those over to me? And we'll go ahead and scan them in.
Sure.
I mean, then it becomes how much is it worth for you to win? Because everybody has their price.
Yeah, and what happens when you get caught? That's interesting, I think.
Yeah, the perceived chance of getting caught also factors into the whole price thing. I mean, someone could offer $1 billion, but if the likelihood of getting caught is super high, then even people who have their price might end up still saying no.
Right. Yep. Absolutely. That was a
I
fun
don't know,
discussion.
everybody has their price. I mean, it's all.
But
matter of-
price also includes if you're able to take advantage of it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you can do stuff, but you gotta make sure you don't get caught.
And $1 billion of investment into something is going to attract a lot of eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what maybe Liz was pointing out there.
That too.
Not always. I mean, you can always go the CIA route. So let's just say you invest $1 billion, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the person on the other end is going to get $1 billion. You might have fucking dirt on them that says, "Hey, you're cheating on your wife, and you're an upstanding member of the community." Well, guess what? Those empty ballots, just go ahead and hand those over, and we won't show this videotape of you getting knobbed off by that dude.
How many people can they get with that? And how many people are whistleblowers? Is all I'm
not
saying.
sure how
With $1
how
billion
scalable that approach is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because it only takes one person saying there was a blackmail attempt against me to get into the news and really fuck up that whole tactic for at least for that election.
Well, that's true, but
I like the next point of conversation to talk about. Oh, that's good. Whoever picked
video.
that, good job.
You're welcome. I mean, thanks. That's what I meant to say. Duh.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, we've got Black Hat / DEF CON. The hits keep coming with this article. Whoa, all the things.
It's a pretty long article, but it goes over some of the stuff we talked about before last week with the searches and things like that. Apparently, Caesars did create their policy. Yes, they could do room searches. They can only do visual searches. They couldn't go through your shit. And yeah, they're guards are going through their shit, making Snapchats and sharing them. So
shit, because they were taking people's soldering irons and
yeah. But they weren't supposed to be going through their shit, though. That's yeah. And even worse, again, they were taking pictures, putting it on Snapchat, shit like that. Oh, that does not look good at all.
Yeah, it's not good. And if we're saying is probably that's having it Caesar's property again next year, and it's not like I'm sure they've already negotiated a shitload of contracts.
Yeah.
It's not at Caesar's next year, but it's at Caesar's properties.
Yeah, but not all of the properties are going to be Caesar's, to my knowledge.
Well, I thought it was Paris, Bailey's, and one other place that was. What was the other place? Shipped. Planet Hollywood. When I looked them all up, they were all.
I thought there was at least one that wasn't Caesar's, but maybe I misremembered.
I could be wrong too, but when I looked it up, I was told it was Paris, Bailey's, and Planet Hollywood. And when I looked those all up, they were all Caesar's.
And when I was initially told all this, it seemed like they were originally looking for another hotel, but it wasn't set in stone. The name that was floated around was Flamingo, which, yes, I know is a Caesar's property, but it did not sound as if it was set in stone.
Yeah, I kind of like I have them in one hotel. Any hotel they have in Vegas is huge. I mean, maybe they should have it at the convention center. I don't know. I've never been to the convention center.
There was talk about that as well, but the fear is that if you have it at the convention center where it's going to be away from Party Central, that it might it would disincentivize a lot of people who normally come to DEF CON from coming.
Yeah.
Even though the parties, hotels are just a tram ride away, it's still more friction than if it was just at a hotel you're at.
But
any hotel, you take an elevator up, you're done. Yeah.
Yeah. Any hotel that can hold DEF CON is so big, there's a lot of walking. Like back when it was in the Rio. I don't know what the actual floor space is, but Rio still seems to me like the biggest location they ever had it at. It felt bigger. I don't know if it's just me or.
Yeah.
I mean, eventually it'll probably have to be at the convention center because DEF CON's still growing, doubling in size every several years.
And they don't put a limit on tickets. I did hear this year they didn't actually sell out of the electronic badges.
The last day they were still selling the badges at a discount price. Which, I mean, it is what it is. Either they run out or they have too many. It's due to the style of how they run this thing. It has one or the other.
Next year may not go so well with this, so we'll find out. There's also been there about the badges and things like that too, about the thing did, so that's kind of a fluff piece. But however, things got a little weird. Apparently, there was a Google what was he? I can't remember what he was, but named Matt Linton. He made a tweet about saying, if I had the time and budget and motive to launch really good attacks in Vegas, I would attack random DEF CON nerds who are probably mostly broken powerless, attack people at Black Hat who are way more likely to be in positions of power somewhere worth the money to drop on tickets. And he got a visit from the LVPD, actually, because someone alerted Caesars and they called the PD, and basically had a chat with them saying what I meant by attack was I would, hack them, not assault them or, hurt them physically. And they're like, oh, okay, that's, of course, given what's going on here. So they basically said, okay, yeah, you're done here. We're done here. And he actually got kicked out of his hotel room and then had to get the founder of DEF CON, of Black Hat, said, hey, help him out and got him back in. So that was a fun bit for him. And
he was given a notice saying you're trespassing on Caesar's property. He posted a picture of that notice he was given when they first kicked him out.
Fun times there, and of course talking later on the article about the room searches and things like that, and even one person had a female had them walking on her while she was in the bathroom naked, so that does not look good at all. Even if they do have a legitimate right, that still looks pretty bad.
Well, it's so I don't know. Maybe the shower was on, but at least by their own policy, they did say they were supposed to knock on the door first.
Yeah, they're supposed to, but they don't have to, apparently, sometimes. And apparently, what people are theorizing here, at least in this article, is that if you turn down maid service for more than a couple days, they would check your room. And
yes, that was the whole thing initially, where you turn on...
basically that. So, which makes little sense because, they give you money back. When I last stayed in a hotel, they basically said if you don't take a maid service, we'll give you like $5 or $10 a day for whatever you want to do with it. And I'm like, yeah, okay. I don't use up all my towels every day. I'm not an idiot like that. So that sounds good to me. And of course, hackers being hackers, they don't want random people who may be unvetted, which most housekeeping staff are. My wife will tell me that because she used to work housekeeping. She knows very fucking well what that's like. Rummaging through your shit. So.
Yeah.
Are we hitting all these topics here? Holy shit.
Funny thing is we had none before, I think.
I had like 4 of them, and they're pretty quick, thankfully. So
yeah,
I had like the last couple. They're pretty quick.
All right. Male feminist. I'm going to whole tweets. Male feminists is the creepiest, filthiest, disgusting people. Point the finger at people who did nothing wrong, and then go out and do really disgusting shit themselves.
Yeah.
These people are degenerates.
Oh, I got into an argument with a fucking guy from that claims to be Antifa about that shit.
Well, technically, you claim to be Antifa, you are Antifa because it's not exactly like it's an officially organized group.
It's like anonymous.
Yeah, dude.
It's no official backing.
No,
if you say you're a Nazi,
where he was like name names, and then I was like, dude, I don't have the time or the crayons to do that.
I think if you self-profess to a group, they don't need to accept you. That's what you are.
To a degree, it depends on the type of group. Like if I say I'm part of the NRA, but I didn't pay NRA membership, that would mean I'm not part of the NRA. Antifa.
Well, does Antifa require a membership charge? Do they jump people in?
There's multiple cells, and things operate semi-independently. A closer comparison might even be the KKK, because the KKK is not one organization; it's several organizations.
Right. And that's how Antifa is. They're a disparate organization that operates independently all over the United States and further. So
yeah, originally started in Europe.
I think you are. You probably are.
Yeah.
But circling back to end this note off here, apparently the guy Mark Mark Rogers, who is the 20-year veteran of running security for DEF CON, resigned over this. So that's gonna make a few waves, I think.
Well, that whole thing is really weird. It feels like he resigned in the middle of actually doing his job. It's if this policy was something that was supposed to have been communicated to him, and it was not. His job is to find out where was the break in communication, assuming that Caesar's told the truth. But
or what if they told him? What if they told him part of the truth, but did something else? Like, we'll do searches, but we won't rifle through your shit, or we'll only do it while you're there. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm bothered that he resigned when there was still work he needed to do to get to the bottom of this as his job for security.
Yeah, I can understand that.
Yep. I mean, that means that dude has been there since I started going, and that seems unreal. My kid was 2 years old when I started going to DEF CON and Black Hat. It was wild.
Yeah.
Somebody sticking around that long is just, kudos to him for how whatever he had to put up with. Things have changed immensely. So
Yeah, no more lines of coke at the well, not capture flag, the scavenger hunt table.
oh, dude, I mean, it used to be. I mean, some of you have been there since the early days, and Spot the Fed. They didn't want any governments there. It was the blackest of hackers there, which at DEF CON, which was a cool thing. You got. I mean, I was there when Sub 7 was revealed and a whole bunch of other toolkits. I mean, it was interesting.
I'm a little confused. Like, wasn't the very first DEF CON one where they literally invited a representative from the DOJ to speak in the keynote?
Potentially. I didn't make it to like DEF CON 4 or 5.
So, I mean, it's one thing to say they didn't want any feds there, but even in its founding, it's my understanding is that, Dark Tangent was like, fuck it.
Yeah, maybe. I got to get a book
I guess there's a bit
now on DEF CON because I didn't know about that.
I guess it's a bit different when you're talking about DOJ versus
was a big deal.
FBI.
Sure. Yeah.
All right, let's keep this moving along. Next, we've got John McAfee as a lunatic wingbat.
Yeah, I like this.
Yeah.
Well, it was also linked in there as
always
well. Well, he got a lot worse after he moved to Belize and got on bath salts and all that shit. That destroyed his mind. But
See, I think his campaign slogan last year, no, the year before last, should have been "Make hookers and blow great again."
Hey, what did he run under in his
Libertarian.
last campaign?
Libertarian.
See, that's my problem with being a libertarian is there's so many goddamn kooks.
yeah, and he was doing it purely for the attention.
Dances in front of the national convention does not make the libertarians kooks.
Well, okay.
By association, it does.
I went to a libertarian gathering, and there were people running around naked, old men. And it was just chaos. So they have very bright minds. Matt Welsh, Michael Moynihan, Camille Foster, those types of people, even Rand Paul, to a certain extent. If they could just get past that, I would be fully on board.
But
they have some bad optics shit. That's for damn sure.
Yes, for sure.
So circling back to the article at large is talking about the Pony Awards at Black Hat, which were about 2 weeks ago. But the winner for the what was it? The lamest vendor response was John McAfee when he worked for BitFi, which he claimed was an unhackable Bitcoin wallet as a physical device. Yeah. And of course, that's a challenge right there. It's unhackable.
That was Cyber Gibbons, right?
Was
on that?
I think so.
So remember,
John McAfee he knows better.
Unhackable is
no, he doesn't. He's a bombastic asshole. He looks for any excuse he can to get attention. That's the sole reason he ran for the president, was to get attention.
Yes, but even McAfee should know better than to say something's unhackable. That is one of very few things that shocked me about the guy.
How much did McAfee understand security?
Not at all, clearly.
He has and he understands it somewhat.
That wasn't really a question. It was more.
I know, rhetorical.
But
he does have some understanding.
The device is actually so hackable. There's a link in there on Abe Snowman on Twitter where a guy named Spootiawar put Doom on it and played Doom on the actual wallet. That just shows you how actually secure it is. So,
Cyber Gibbons' response has been amazing. I've loved it so much.
So
Cyber Gibbon?
Yes.
Yeah.
So tips for those out there listening: don't ever say something that's unhackable because people in the industry are going to prove you wrong really fast and make you look like an ass doing it too.
there was a black hat talk where that was the whole premise of the guy's talk on this company that said totally secure. It's a company that made a smart lock that would replace your deadbolt. And in their marketing material, it said totally secure in this video. And the guy's just like, okay, let's see how this works. So he literally like takes their marketing pitch and just hits every single point to the point of where, okay, this is wrong. This point's wrong. I just showed it with this. This point's wrong. I just showed it with this. This point, it was just hilarious to watch.
I still seen one of those like smart deadbolts where like, oh, this is so secure, but it was vulnerable to a replay attack. It was are you shitting me?
Yeah, that's what it was.
You know what we should do?
Yeah, that's right.
We should track all devices that somebody has claimed is unhackable.
And then find the articles next to it saying hack, 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 hack.
2 hours later.
Yeah, really.
2 hours later. Alexa has been hacked. Like,
I got at least one BitFi sticker. So go ahead.
Like the Amazon, that thing where they let people into your house and they said it was purely secure, that type of deal.
Purely secure.
That didn't go over well.
No.
All right.
I have enjoyed the superposition of BitFi and Goatsy logos.
Yes, if you want to see those, check out @CyberGiven on Twitter. The guy is hilarious.
And he's also been fucking with the people running their Twitter account.
Oh, really?
Oh, he's been posting chat logs about it. It's just so good.
Okay, we gotta. You might want to share this. No, that's not it. Where is it? I found it on Google Image Search.
The
Cyber, Cybergiven is a interesting person.
He is very interesting for hardware hacking, if you just in general as well.
Yeah, exactly. He is a rebel, a loner, Dottie.
He and I went back and forth.
Many of you would get that reference.
It's funny how I started following. I think he follows me too, but it's interesting. I think he and I went back and forth on hardware hacking of RFID when I was doing my main research. I think I posted something on it, and he commented on it. It was fun. Had a good conversation, which you don't get often anymore. That was like a year ago. Which I have later on in the show notes, just kind of for some social media fun. All right. Sentinel-1 YouTube takedown. Streisand effect newcomer. Is this about... no, this isn't about Alex Jones. I thought we would be talking about that. Almost.
No, that was last week. No, so there's a company out there called Sentinel-1. They make a security product. I don't know much about it. It's supposedly like an antivirus product.
It's not very good.
What's that?
Disclaimer, I did test it, and it's not very good.
There you go. So, at B-Sides Manchester, a guy gave a report showing his talk was titled "Next Gen AV versus My Shitty Code," and to show you just how crappy it was. So, Sentinel-1 did a copyright claim on YouTube to take it down. And of course, we all know how well trying to bury a talk like that works. Spoiler alert, it doesn't. We've had multiple cases of that happening, like Cisco will try and bury shit. No, it gets released elsewhere. So, burying it is the worst response you can take.
We need a better term for it than Streisand effect. I know that's the original, but we need something better.
Well, isn't the Streisand effect the one where the lady didn't want people taking pictures of her house, and then okay, good.
That's right.
And
but it's used for all situations where somebody is trying to hide something and it comes out. They're trying to delete it from the internet. so to speak, and it comes out anyway. And it comes out in a surge where everybody is tweeting about it or holding on to the images or publishing the images or what have you. So,
But
it's a good
specifically,
enough phrase,
the act of suppressing it is what
Streisand.
gives it publicity.
Yep.
Exactly.
So if they just would have not said a goddamn thing, then it would have gotten less publicity.
Yep.
Yep.
I'm not saying it's applicable. It's just Streisand.
Right.
But yeah, so it was basically they actually registered reached out to Sentinel-1 and got kind of a response saying, "No, we're in the right. It was lawfully taken down. Ha 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 ha." And it's like, oh boy, you're not helping your case at all.
Nope. There's a lot of people that don't believe in lawful takedowns.
Well, it doesn't matter if they claim it's a lawful takedown. The fact is,
It does not.
It's not a copyright claim at all. They're insisting it is. That's a lawful, takedown against abuse of our copyright. No, it's not. That's not how it
On
works.
the internet, copyright claims don't go very far.
Well, on YouTube they do because it's all automated.
Well, yeah, very powerful companies, yes. I agree with you.
But the good news is video was stored to YouTube on last Saturday, so good job.
Nice.
Somebody, yeah, all right. Trying to keep an eye on the chat here.
Yeah, anyone saying?
Somebody wants us to talk about what happened with Katie.
Oh, that was the hacker or she was in the bathroom naked when they came in.
Mm.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Really? I thought
that was a Black Cat or DEF CON, one of the two.
DEF CON.
I recall her stating that she was in her room, someone was knocking at the door demanding to come in, and she was tweeting about how she was calling the front desk security, saying, "Is this person authorized? Is this actually part of Caesar's security staff, or is this some random person claiming they're part of Caesar's and demanding to come into my room?" And he ended up being an actual Caesar's employee, but the way they went about it was horrible, as there was no real way of authenticating it, and the person apparently showed a lot of impatience at being told to wait while she called the front desk to authenticate the person.
Oh, heaven forbid I should check your credentials, right?
Right.
Yes, it's. I get Caesars is a bit touchy, or all of Vegas is touchy after that shooting the other year. But even in the most generous interpretation of how you go about implementing new security procedures, Caesars just fucked up a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
It is, and they're going to lose business because of it.
Well, yeah,
they have directly already.
Yeah, true that.
I know I'm no longer going to be staying at Caesars. I want any future year for DEF CON.
I'll be staying at Caesars, sitting there in the office chair, legs spread wide open, nothing on me.
That's not funny. I told y'all last week what happened to me when I was staying at a hotel in Western Kentucky.
Yeah.
Would you whip your big dick around
and? I was waiting on this customer to call me back, and I was in the shower, and then they called me back, so I jumped out of the shower, ran to answer the phone to try to help him out, and
was it a prostitute?
No. No, so I'm at my laptop, got the headset on, and I'm just me
doing your thing,
and the hotel security just used their key to go in because the mate was doing rounds, and it was a hotel that had a notorious high number of ODs.
Okay. Yeah, I stay at those not bed and breakfast, but you know what I'm talking about? You rent a house
Airbnb.
Airbnb. Yep, that's right. That's where I generally stay in the past when I've gone to Vegas and DerbyCon and DEF CON. So, hey, almost got a chance to stay with Tim Pool. He was looking for somebody to room with, and I messaged him about 5 minutes late.
All right. You guys got anything else on Sentinel-1?
Nope.
All right.
Nope.
Cellular gateways wide open. Take a look at
Oh
this.
yeah, this was a pretty good one here. So, F5 Labs, F5, the load balancer maker, was doing some research into Linux malware, and they found a bunch of devices online using like Shodan and port scans, things like that, and found out they are cellular gateways. Now, what a cellular gateway is, it's a device used to connect a vehicle, for example. A lot of them used by cops and emergency vehicles to transfer back to home base because they have to do data connection, and easiest way to do that is a cellular. It's basically a cellular modem in the car talking back to the home base, or talks to an ISP which routes to the main base. So, and a lot of these are wide open and internet facing. Most of which they found out at least 13. Well, they didn't list the number, but several which have the default username and password of like user 12345 and things like that. And they managed to log into a few and go, uh-oh. They found out that it was actually a cop they were tracking when one of them, they were watching it go around because it was getting long coordinates, and because that's part of the cellular data, and they plugged that into Google Maps and did like a student view, and found out it was right from a police station. They were like, "Oh shit, this is a cop car we're watching in real time. This is bad." And so they sent a bunch of notifications out to let people know of, "Hey, shore your shit up. This is pretty bad because it can be tracked by anyone." And there's actually if you scroll down the page a little bit near the about middle way through, there's a little map there that shows all the GPS locations of where they found them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so quite a few in the U.S. and Europe, and a little bit sprinkled across the rest of the world too. So
Yeah, he basically got them, and there's some on every continent for sure.
yeah, probably major cities. So
yeah. Okay, so this right here.
Oh, the U.S. is just blanketed with freckles.
Yeah, on the East Coast, yes. But what's interesting is this area right here of I believe that's
the Hague's in there.
Yeah,
that's
the
like
Hague.
Chicago, Cleveland, into France, the Hague, yeah.
The Hague and Amsterdam is in here too, and that is a huge area for that.
Yeah, and if you look at some of the East Coast of the U.S., I mean, some of these states are practically just covered with them. Parts of Florida, D.C., and New York, and Maryland, and
Carolinas,
and of course on the West Coast, you can see that L.A. and San Diego and such are all covered up too. And Northwest Seattle, yeah. So
Toronto, I think, is up somewhere over here.
No, Toronto's closer to New York.
They even got the South. Look at that.
Yeah, this is Darren.
That's Texas. That's Texas. Yes,
I know that's Texas.
No. I mean above Texas, there, Alabama,
Mississippi.
Yeah, Mississippi.
Louisiana, Mississippi.
That's a bunch of cities. That's Dallas. That's Houston. That's Austin. Maybe San Antonio, but yeah.
Nice.
I guess. Here's Iowa.
Yeah. Hey,
a little spot here.
Look at South Dakota.
Yeah, even South and North Dakota got some hits in there too, and
Nebraska.
This is Minneapolis, St. Paul, which is the main metropolitan area of Minnesota.
Yeah.
You got some up here that's close to Duluth. There's the other metropolitan area. Big metropolitan area, big trading area too. I like how they don't have the Great Lakes drawn on this map. That's kind of funny.
Yeah, but you can see it's up in Cleveland, which has a major backbone running through it. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I like this little blip out here.
Now, it's not just, cops and emergency vehicles. It could be a lot of things, because these are just, any kind of cellular gateway, but they're popularly used on those. It could also be used on, say, a bus that has, Wi-Fi on it. They can use a cellular gateway to provide that internet service. So,
Yep.
Yeah.
Good call up, Darren.
All right.
Nothing in Russia.
No, no, there's one.
No, there's one. That's probably Moscow.
Moscow?
Okay. Yeah, I guess so.
That looks like
Moscow
Moscow.
is here, but
okay.
God, Russia's just huge. I can't.
Oh yeah.
Just keep
Some shit in the Middle West there.
Mhm.
Japan seems unscathed, except for some islands.
One I'm surprised by. Nothing here. Nothing in India.
Nothing in India.
That surprises me.
Not really.
India?
Well, I mean
Dubai.
But like Dubai, I would think would have some of them.
Yeah.
They might.
Yeah, for sure.
They
But
might.
they're just not
They may be
open.
secured. They may be secured behind a VPN access, or are properly locked down. Things like that.
Hey, let's locate North Korea. They got anything? Doesn't look like it.
Right there, no. Not even South Korea.
I'm not surprised by anything in China coming out, because that would be really funny.
Yeah, I mean, they've got something on the edge there, right? Is that Hong Kong?
No, Hong Kong.
Taiwan?
No, Taiwan's the island over there with the 2 dots on it.
Yeah, that's that guy.
Yeah, so they got Taiwan. What's that?
I don't know.
I don't know. Let's see.
Map of China.
I'm pretty good with geography, but I don't know that area specifically.
That's Hong Kong.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah,
that was right.
That's either Hong Kong or Macau. Yeah.
Yep. That's right within that Bay Area. Or like they've got a little Bay Area here.
Australia's got some freckles, but nobody gives a shit about. Hey, look.
Oh God, why Google Maps?
Canada.
Google Maps turns into a globe if you scroll out far enough.
Yep.
That's freaking dumb. Yeah. No, stop.
Yeah, you should be able to overlay it, right? Or underlay it.
Yeah, whatever.
That'd be nice.
Okay, but those areas that are affected or that have these in Australia are cities like Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane, and a couple up in Queensland, which is the quadrant here. That territory. Let's see. They've got some in Adelaide and Perth. So basically every major metropolitan area. God, what is this? Google, what are you doing? No, this is so dumb. This is bad. No, stop. Why? Okay, never mind. Don't like. No likey. Just want a flat map, man. So can I change it?
Well, hey, that's your project for the week. Change it.
No, my project for the week is to write a report to send to a potential employer.
Oh, I mean, like a extra side project,
Fix Google.
Yeah, exactly.
Fix Google Maps. Oh God, no! This is a UX nightmare for me. Ugh, gross. No. I need to show this to my UX guy. See what he thinks. That'd be funny.
Oh, dude, that dude's such a piece of shit. I'm sorry, I'm reading other tweets. I'm like, oh, dude.
Speaking of tweets,
well, the United States is definitely freckled.
Mm-hmm. Very.
Sorry, Adrian.
Sorry.
But as Jack and I both know, having worked for the government, they don't take that kind of shit very seriously.
They don't take it seriously?
I don't know. It depends on which agency you work for.
Yeah, that's true.
Local, it might be they take it seriously, but don't have the funds or the time, or they've got other stuff going on. Would be
no, they don't pay. Well, with local governments, is typically you get what you pay for.
Mm.
If you don't want to pay people shit, then
right. That's what I was getting at.
Yeah, unfortunately, most government jobs don't pay as well. Though sometimes they have nice benefits and perks, and one of the few places where they say they're going to give you a pension anymore, although whether or not the money will actually be there, considering government job and such. And
And
now,
it's
I
at
said
the
there's a
whim
lot
of the
of
state government,
was that?
Bevan. Or it's at the whim of the state government, Bevan.
Yeah, I mean,
So, anyone else got anything for cellular gateways wide open?
Nope.
Nope.
Yeah, not really.
All right. So, we were talking in chat before moving on to the next point of social media is fun. We were in chat while I was looking through a bunch of these points, and someone brought up a video. I think it was the video that you were showing around, Adrian, of the black Israelites, where they were where a feminist comes up and says, "You're sexually harassing me" or whatever.
I didn't show that to him.
Okay. Anyway, so I had something similar to me, well, not to me specifically. I was involuntarily involved in it. Happened to me on Twitter. So I found this Twitter thing, this tweet from I don't even want to try and pronounce that. What is with me and getting these really hard pronunciations?
Is that what's his name?
I think it's a she. It's a she.
No.
That's Kim Jong-un.
Yeah. So this is
on
Kim.
the board.
This is Kim Jong-un. So this is a wall that was at DEF CON. It is donate USB drives. We'll erase them, fill them with films and ebooks from the outside world. Outside world being anything outside North Korea, and get them to North Korea with enough USBs. We can help free citizens' minds from Kim Jong-un's propaganda machine.
Yeah.
So I recall seeing a North Korea table, but I didn't see that wall there.
Okay, so this was right next. Apparently, this was right next to the Hack 5 booth that I later found out. But that was only after I posted this picture, where I'm like, "Huh, that strangely looks like a rubber ducky."
Yeah.
So my
they'll
thought
check all that. So, have you ever seen what they do?
No.
So they've got North Korean defectors that generals high up in the military that help them plan these forays into North Korea, where they light up these balloons that are filled with gas, and they attach all kinds of stuff to it. CD players, movies, soap operas, just things about the world in general, and they float them. We're talking like 20, 30 of them. They float them into North Korea, and possibly more. Float over, and some get shot down, but others make their way into the villages and where people are at, and they descend, and the people go and they grab them. And like a soap opera isn't a pretty big deal. So if they get a soap opera and one of the military finds them, they generally just take the movie from them and go watch it in their own homes. But anything else, they could get shot for, right?
Right.
So this is a plan that they do. You can see it on Vice News on HBO. They did a pretty good, maybe a 20, 30-minute session on it. And it was interesting. So they really do this. They put CDs, they put USB drives, anything to let the North Koreans know about what's going on in the outside world. And again, they've got defectors from North Korea, generals that are helping them do this. The generals want no part of North Korea. They are defectors. If they go back, they'll be killed. So I think it's an interesting concept, but a rubber ducky there. I've got a rubber ducky, and you can do some damage with it.
Yeah. So my comment was, good thing these are being erased, because this looks like a ducky. And I had a bunch of people ask, like, what's a ducky? Like, blah, blah, blah. So I explained it because this is a.
Oh, Jesus.
And I'm like, okay. So, and like her audience is not a very. I don't believe it's a very tech related audience or tech centric audience.
Yeah.
But she
They're mostly
she
like
is.
journalists and things.
She is
like
aware. She is aware of them, which she is very aware, which is cool. And she was the one who pointed it out to me. So she replied back, "True, it was right next to the Hack 5 booth. After all, they will be nicely cleaned and forensically wiped." But
so
then,
Hack 5, you think put that in there?
maybe I could see them doing that. That would be funny.
Yeah.
But I said,
Oh, they're both commies, aren't they?
well, I don't know. So here's
got that big red star. I was kind of wondering. I don't know. I'll have to look. Sorry, go continue.
So, okay. So this is where I say in my sub point, I say a joke and I'm accused of sexual harassment, which is funny. So here's what I said.
Jesus fucking Christ.
So I said, here's a thought. Ducky for arming North Koreans? Teach them a hack with the rubber ducky. See what comes out. Get them to go through more stuff. And I can't wait. Did he remove it? Oh, no, he didn't. Someone commented on it.
The guy getting accused of sexual harassment, though, is possibly even stupider than the guy who's commenting who's a tanky. But I'll get into that in a second. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so this guy, Red Half Guard, whatever, goes, they are I'm gonna be yelling through this because I feel like that's how he would want me to do it. They are already armed. You know your government killed millions of them, right? And then I let this sit for a couple days. I don't respond, and because I was like, okay, this guy's not worth my time. And I showed it to my buddy, who is a very far left, like, person. And I'm like, hey, it's your people, right? And he was like, oh, you lit the fuse now. And I'm like, wait, no, don't. So he goes off on him, calls him a tanky. And what a tanky is, and this is another weird group of the week, I guess, is someone who thinks Stalin, like, essentially anything that Stalin did was okay, which is not. And they like
starving Ukrainians, all that shit. Fine.
Yeah, Stalin did nothing wrong. That's what these kind of people are. And
wow.
They almost seem less deluded because they recognize maybe a totalitarian government is the only way you can actually implement a version of that kind of communism. Because how do you redistribute the wealth without a state? People who are anarcho-communists are like, how are you going to redistribute the wealth without a state? Oh, you're expecting us all to just give in willingly. Some of us aren't like that. Oh, you're going to kill all kind. Some of us will pop up and, you know what? We got guns. Yeah. Anarcho-communism is just, I mean, it's anarcho-capitalism has its problems. Anarcho-communism is just asinine.
What's funny
is
that's
not the people I've known in the past that act that way. Are we sure that was meant for the North Koreans, or was it meant for other purposes, like finding somebody that got access to the rubber ducky? Like, was it meant for North Korean government officials or army? Like, we don't know what it was meant for.
Yeah, and
maybe they were trying to track somebody. I don't know.
And that was the thing. I have no idea. I have no pretense for why that may or may not be a rubber ducky. It probably could well be not a rubber ducky. I said it.
I have one here, and it looks
exactly like that. I have one sitting on my desk right now as well, and that's why I was like, that looks like that, and that's why I said that, and I was like, and as a joke, which apparently when you make an emoji that looks like I'm kidding, no one reads. This guy did not catch that, and apparently got a lot of backing behind it. Dude got 19 idiots to follow him, or to like that.
That's fine.
Anyway, the part where he goes into sexual harassment is after my buddy. Okay, let's say. So after my buddy says, "Go home, Tanky," he goes, "When being anti-tanky reveals itself as being pro-imperialist genocide," and it's like, where the hell are these words coming from? As I'm like watching this unfold. And then after after my friend does a retort saying, "No, I don't defend imperialist genocide, and I won't support any no amount of brutality, blah blah of the state, blah blah blah, words," and go back to jerking off to mass murders like the capitalists you supposedly are different from, which is what he's saying, which is him kind of attacking the ideology of tankies, where a lot of the left-leaning kind of neo-communists, let's call them.
Can you describe tankies again? Because I've been out of the loop a little bit.
Yeah, tankies are people who like Stalin and his like Stalin did nothing wrong.
That's
There's nothing
right.
wrong with North Korea. China is like the prime example of communism working correctly. You know.
Is this the equivalent of the alt-right that doesn't think anything was wrong with what Hitler or Mussolini did? Is that?
Yeah, think alt-left.
Yeah. I'm trying to draw a comparison. Is this the left version of the alt-right?
Yeah, it's like the equivalent of that.
I don't know about that because.
Yeah, I'd like to hear other people's opinions on that. I don't know it very well.
They justify some of the totalitarian shit that that communists have done in the past as being necessary. The anarcho-communist types, or more like the people you might see in Antifa, would, and maybe there's probably a lot of crossover, would say, well, that was just because they implemented it wrong. Quite frankly, the tankies, while I don't like them, at least they maybe recognize that a totalitarian state is needed to redistribute wealth. Don't get me wrong, I'm throwing all of them helicopters. But
so the alt-right, as far as I understand them, think that the only way through is a totalitarian government.
Well, that's the question, and they're really loose on politics. As long as it's an ethno state with all white people, they're okay with it, and politics becomes questionable because Richard Spencer, I've listened to him talk on politics a little bit when in debates to people, and he's not exactly a capitalist by any sense either. And
he's an idiot.
Yeah, he's an idiot,
top to bottom.
But he's not. The only focus is a white ethno state. The political systems beyond that, to my knowledge, and the economic systems beyond that matter less, and there's more room for debate.
Yeah. It's, geez, I hate listening to Richard Spencer make his arguments, and Jared Taylor scares the fuck out of me, so I don't listen to him too much.
Well, to finish, sorry.
But to listen to Richard Spencer, how he became the media's darling, and darling, I'm using darling very loosely. He was the one, the scapegoat, maybe, because he was so stupid.
They use him.
White ethno state. Are you fucking kidding me? So what do I do? What does my son do in a white ethno state? Do we just fucking move? And who's gonna make me move?
That's where the one drop. That's where the one drop rule comes into play.
And my understanding, it depends on which one of them you talk to. There's a guy I've heard debate Sargon of Akkad. Sargon of Akkad is like an eighth black via some kind of area in the Caribbean. His grandfather apparently was Caribbean.
Who's
black.
that guy?
He had debate. He had a debate with Millennial Rose. And Millennial Rose, is considers himself alt-right and wants an ethno state. His thing is, you're British enough. So on what you look like and how you act to a degree, but I'm trying to think of a comparison on the far right side, or what they call far right, of tankies to ANCOMs, as far as I understand them. But I need to look more into tankies, to be honest with you. Most of the comments
I think that would be a good entry for next week's group of the week.
Yes.
All right, tankies.
To prime the conversation here, anarchy would not work in the United States. It just never would. We can't. It doesn't seem like we can even agree on what a smaller government means. Leftists would say, hey, we agree the government should be small. I'm not talking about super leftist or Democrat, socialist, or whatever. I'm talking about those like center left and those on the right that want, or they have in the past wanted a smaller government. They say, yeah, we all want the government to be smaller. It's just, what are we going to fund? What are we going to cut off? Yada, yada, yada. There's a disagreement about how much the government should control and how much funds it should have. It's not, they don't legitimately think that the government needs to be big. From the people I've talked to. Now, that is a bit interesting.
But you're going to
But
run
no,
into
no. I'm not talking about the ANCOM or ANCAPs. ANCOM and ANCAPs, they want a dissolution of all power. Who's going to run them? Who's going to... What's the police force? Is the police force just dudes that happen to pick up weapons and are the strongman?
Actually, in the Ancapistan version of it, you can basically finance independent security. I don't see it being practical either. And ANCOM, as far as I can tell, they're just hoping everybody would just get along. And I suppose they've killed everybody who cares about their own personal self-interest and who wants to keep the shit they made themselves. And anybody that
exactly right.
Anarcho-communism, anybody who buys into anarcho-communism, I have to assume has never done a group project in college.
Or never graduated from 8th grade.
Well, there is certainly a problem with that. Socialism is supposed to be the big government, I don't know, prompt for the next step, which is communism. And communism is supposed to have no government, as far as my readings go. And we're talking about going back to not the new stuff. We're talking about going back when the idea was first in its inception.
Yeah, the term socialism is kind of changed over time, depending on who's saying it and on what exactly they mean.
We're talking about Marx, like back when Marx was talking about it. The end goal of socialism is communism, and communism is something without a government. So
it's kind of
which I don't
anarchistic at it.
Obviously, I'm not on board with that at all. I think we need a government. Even from my libertarian side, there are uses for the government.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Yeah. So anyway, after my buddy said that he needs to go off and jerk off to mass murders from Stalin and North Korea and China, he said he says why does it always turn into gross sexual harassment with you dronies? And I'm like, all right, now I have to get into this. So I come out and say exactly what I've said on the cast, which is this was a joke. I don't agree with anything that about those wars. I don't like war. I don't think anyone does at their core. And my comment was in the context of giving people of North Korea a way to get information. Maybe a rubber ducky would be a way to do that, and which is what the whole post was about. And then I apologized directly to the original poster, which was this journalist named Wendy. So, sexual harassment charge gone.
Yeah, it's great things that get referred to as sexual harassment these days. And the people who play up people who talk about crazy shit, like Ben Shapiro got accused of basically catcalling by challenging Cortez to a debate. That's not catcalling, you moron. I don't think she's bright. I've seen several interviews of her. I know I don't come off the most articulate in the world, but egad, she opens her mouth and just sounds.
But you're not running for Congress.
He was gonna pay her to debate. He was like, "Hey, I will give you money if you want to debate." Like,
and then Candace Owens offered like what, twice as much?
She can speak, right? She can talk, and she can carry a group. Cortez. She's not a stupid person in the very least, but she's got some super big holes in her game. And I think that's what Ben Shapiro would bring out. Or somebody even on the left. Why isn't the left debating them?
Who would you have? Okay, who would you have debate her from the left?
Oh, there are quite a few people that I think that can debate her from the left.
But how
is unstoppable?
Let me rephrase my question. Who do you think would be able to debate her from the left? So Democrats from the Democratic Party that would not lose or have any significant backlash from debating her. Just even the word, I'm going to debate her.
Yeah, so I was thinking Jessica Tarlov could debate her, but she would receive backlash for sure.
Yeah,
there is a split. There are liberals, and then there are Democratic Socialists, and they poke holes in the Democratic Socialist Party all the time, and the Democratic Socialists hate people like Kamala Harris because they made millions. They are not one of the people. So I think there is a good chance that, if things weren't so hectic on the right, there would be some conversations going on between the left and the Democratic Socialists. I don't mind left of center Democrats. I don't at all. Where things get a little bit, I don't know, stiffy is when these people are Democratic Socialist or super far left of center. Just like the people that are, anarcho-capitalists or super far right from the center.
Essentially, an extremist mindset is what you're getting at.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, any extremist in my book is a problem, especially if they get a large enough backing. But this Democratic Socialist Party is picking up steam. Mm-hmm. And I know that they've had some problems with the left. So, libs get bullets too, right?
What's also interesting...
Isn't that, am I mistaken? Isn't that the same?
That is something that was called some Antifa protest riots or whatever you want to call them. Liberals get the bullet too. Then when we get the whole distinction of what is a liberal, what's not a liberal, and there's people I know who I do respect who define themselves as liberal because it means something different. They mean liberal in the classic sense of liberty, but
like classic liberalism.
Yeah.
No, they make fun of classical liberals all the time, like a Dave Rubin. There's so many other ones. That's just the name that came to my head right away.
Yeah.
They make fun of those people.
Him and Saul got the first two to come to my head, but yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to get a whole lot of shit from people, some various people, for even mentioning Sargon, because people hear Sargon and they think, never mind, I'm not even bringing that term up.
Dude, Sargon needs to poke and prod people. That is what keeps his channel going.
Yeah.
His subscribers like to see that. But he is somebody of the left. He is. It's in him. And maybe he's center left. I don't know.
He's called alt-right all the time, even though, he's got some mixed race stuff. He finds that and he sends interracial gay porn, or used to before he got banned off Twitter, interracial gay porn to people on the alt-right.
If you watched him for any amount of time, he debates people on the alt-right and destroys them. And I'm not using destroy in the YouTube terms where there's some back and forth and one person makes a good point and blam. But, he puts Richard Spencer in his place. He put a lot of them in their place, even Jared Taylor.
Him and Sargon get into too much of a insult fest back and forth. I think mostly instigated by Spencer, but regardless, his debates with his thing with Jared Taylor was more bringing up points. He never really argued. He just asked questions and brought up counter arguments. Now his stuff with Millennial Rose is interesting because Millennial Rose came up with some shit that I'm like, are you asinine? He said something along the lines of, I can't quote it exactly, but he would rather live in a state of nothing but SJWs as long as they were white than hang out with other races that agreed with him politically. I mean, other things.
Yeah.
Like race. I'm like,
That's pure. From where I stand, that is racist.
yeah. And I also just seem it's just fucking nuts. I mean, I don't care what you look like as much as what your ideology is as far as, freedom and how politics should be run and economics should be run. I care about that much more than anything about what you look like.
I don't even care about someone's politics. I will live with them as long as they are friendly people and not radical. I am completely fine living amongst liberals and leftists. The ones I know are completely nice. And that's just the way it has been. Now, maybe it'll change in the future, but I have no problem with those people. I have no problem with people that are center right. I don't. Either side, man. But they all got to work together if there's going to be cohesion in a culture. And our culture's in a shit show right now. Bottom line, everybody wants to win this goddamn war of culture, no matter what it takes, and it's a problem. If we can't get past that, I don't know what the next step is. I don't see a full-scale civil war, but I see little squabbles that will keep popping up, like the shit that happened in Berkeley, the shit that happened down in Charlottesville. Mm-hmm. All of that will continue. The shit that happened in Boston, that will keep continuing, and it brings a national light on it, and people start to pick sides.
Yeah, it just like every other problem the nation faces, we will not deal with it until we have no other option.
Yeah, and do you think that's a problem? Like, right
I think
now,
it is unhealthy,
the culture is
yeah,
it is unhealthy, and it is impacting culture.
Sure.
I know a guy,
small scale, yeah.
Who's not been somebody who's been around a lot of minority people. Myself excluded. I worked with him for quite a few years, but he always felt, not always, when all this shit started to happen, he felt uncomfortable around minorities because he thought they were looking at him in a way that was like, you're a fucker, and you don't deserve the position you're in. You're a bad guy. And they probably didn't think that. This was just one normal guy that didn't really follow politics. I can't imagine what it's like for people that do. And I'm so glad I got to take a break because this shit melts your brain, man. I don't want to be worried about a civil war that'll probably never happen. And God damn it, for whatever Trump has done in terms of, there's been a couple of good things that he's done. I think he's prepping us for a reform of how our government is put together. That's probably a good thing. I don't know. Outside of that, throw in some examples, but there's some good things that have come out of this, not because of Trump, but because of the chaos he's caused. And I can't wait till the dude's out of office.
I want Ben Shapiro to run. Bush Jewish president. Yay!
Yeah, well,
that might cause more of a storm, but okay.
My pick would be Sam Harris of all people.
Isn't that the libertarian
guy? He's said some shit before. I was like, oh, that's a little weak, man. But
well, so yeah, Ben Shapiro goes out on tangents. He does attack people. And that's something Sam really never does. He's just based on reason. Now, Ben Shapiro wouldn't be a bad president, but he is super conservative. And me being a center-left libertarian, I go, that could potentially be a problem. But his guiding motivation is, number one, smaller government, right?
Before we continue on, because we might still have listeners in, do we have any other topics on the...
Yeah, let's...
Because it is getting towards a little bit later.
Yeah.
Let's sign off if you want.
That was it for the show notes, actually. So otherwise, we have the further reading of the Equifax article that I found that I moved from the actual discussion part of the podcast to further reading because it is a fairly large article. So yeah, that's basically it for show notes.
Oh, I did have one thing I wanted to talk about. Maybe some of the listeners may be interested in. So every year for the past several years, FBI and DOJ have been speaking at B-Sides Las Vegas and DEF CON and Black Hat.
Who was this? I'm sorry, I missed the first part of that. My bad.
So for the past several years, every year for the past several years, the FBI and the DOJ have separately been speaking out on programs they've had, some of their outreach efforts to the InfoSec community, and also some programs, some initiatives they have started. There has been some of an update on that because I attended the panel for the FBI employee had spoke about the Meet the Feds panel at B-Sides, and afterwards went the Department of Justice, the lawyer from the DOJ came and joined for the after talk mixer, I guess you want to put it. But anyway, so for those who are not familiar, the FBI has had and I'm just reciting what there is. I'm not shilling. I'm not advocating for it. They have a program, which is a mailing list, email list, where if you are concerned that any security research you want to do or are thinking of doing might fall afoul of the FBI, you can email and ask if the FBI will open an investigation on you. At least that's the theory behind that whole thing. That's been advertised around every year for the past several years. Some differences this year. A representative from the EFF was alongside the FBI employee, and apparently offers himself to be as a kind of a middleman, and that if you really don't want to be investigated by the FBI, but also don't want to talk to the FBI directly, that apparently the EFF is now cozy enough with them to offer to mediate that question.
That's interesting. They came to just about every SANS class I was ever involved in, and they were recruiting
DOJ.
heavily.
Okay, FBI.
FBI, DOJ, yes, yeah. No, the entire government was there recruiting SANS students.
I can believe
it was
that.
Interesting. They had their little booths outside with, "Hey, come sign up with us," but they were recruiting people in their 20s and early 20s. So that was interesting.
Yeah. I mean that's them. And then for the most part, if you were to try to approach them, they shut you down instantly.
Yeah, I had a good chat with the FBI, and I go, so they do what they do. Is take some field agents who's done some other things, and they move them into the cybersecurity world. It's interesting. I don't know if they teach them forensics or whatnot, but they certainly teach them how to research cybercrime.
So
I thought that was interesting anyway.
Yeah. Though, from what I've seen about the FBI's whole everything, not all their cyber teams really talk to each other. You guess you still have some people with pagers versus other people who can are a bit more savvy. But anyways, other stuff. Something that was actually kind of interesting. This is not yet policy. It's not really concrete in stone. Um, it's something that is worked on. It's hoped to be policy in the future. There was talks about trying to have a safe harbor, so to speak, for security researchers. Something where and it's not quite clear to me what form this would take, but something where you could do security research and not risk CFAA charges. Beforehand, apparently, no matter how much this part of the FBI may have wanted to implement something like that, they couldn't really make that promise because other agencies other than the FBI can initiate law enforcement proceedings.
Right.
So
have we cut off from live? No. All right, never mind.
So
let me know when I need to, but
right. So no, it's
whenever you want, Adrian.
And it's anyway. So anyways, so the thought process here was, if you get every single of the attorneys in the DOJ on board, that it doesn't matter to the point where it doesn't matter which agency tries to initiate proceedings against someone, they all have to go to the same lawyers in the end. So this is where it gets to where this is the first year the DOJ and the FBI has outreach to InfoSec apparently coincided. They're starting to work together, and that is where I first heard that that is either efforts that are in the works. But again, this is not actually policy yet. There's no guarantee it'll become policy. But yeah,
it's merely an idea.
It seems to be a bit further along than idea. It just seems like there's been action towards it, but nothing that is that's not policy yet.
Okay.
Separately, related to all this, I had a chance to speak a little bit more with Leonard Bailey, the Department of Justice representative, and one of the topics that came up was the impact of a felony conviction on the ability for someone to be able to get a job in the future. As one of the points I've brought to him, talking about in the past, has been a felony prosecution in relation to the CFAA. It's not just 6 months in jail, it's 6 months in jail plus a lifelong albatross around your neck where you are far less likely to be able to get a job. And when I had been talking to him at B-Sides, he brought up an example of an individual he had spoken with who, despite having had a felony conviction, has still managed to be able to find gainful employment afterwards within a tech industry. So at that point, it seems to be a matter of, I can only give him so many examples I could list off the top of my head, but I would like to open up dialogue with him again, but this time I want more data. I want something concrete, maybe a study, or in lieu of a study, a lot of interviews to show him about the actual impact of a felony conviction on someone's ability to get gainful employment, especially in the tech industry. Because there have been talks of one of the universally recognized issues with the CFAA that CFAA is the lack of distinction with regards to intent. There's no real Good Samaritan clause with the CFAA. and that is something that was stated as something that has been, something the FBI employee stated has been recognized. But yeah, it's and for now, what I'm about to say is conjecture. It does seem to me that there are talks in the line. There are talks about how maybe there could be changes to the CFA in the future. This is, again, conjecture for me. I heard nothing about this specifically other than mention that they know there are problems with the CFAA. So, yeah.
For those that don't know,
You said you talked to them at...
I talked to them at Jack Daniels, I guess his room over at B-Sides Las Vegas.
Okay, cool. How do you like Jack? How do you find him?
I like the guy. He didn't stay too long. He just made each of us drinks and then he left. I did speak to someone last year a bit.
Yeah. Well,
I like him.
You know, me too. I like him a lot, and he's a bit of a celebrity, so I think he gets a little, I don't want to say anxious, but I think he knows his spot in the security industry.
Yeah.
But a smart as hell dude, and who I picked up my certification curmudgeon from. He was a big impact on that.
Yeah, so to wrap my whole thing up, if any of you know of any resources, any studies, any surveys and the like of people, any kind of tech-related field trying to get gainful employment after getting a felony conviction, please let me know. I'm trying to aggregate this information as much as possible right now.
What about a misdemeanor?
Excuse me?
Felony?
Yes.
How about a misdemeanor? Only a felony? Okay.
Only a felony.
Okay, cool.
Dope.
All right. Wrap it up.
Let's do it. Wrap this.
Like any last words? That didn't come out quite the way I meant it to.
Any last words?
Don't chop my head off.
There can be only one.
My
Adrian,
last words
put
are
the massive.
stay calm.
Huh?
Stay calm and stay inside the salt circle.
Nice. Nice. All right. Thank you, Adrian. You can close it off now.
All right. Everybody who's not in the cast, catch y'all next week. People in the cast, I'll leave the stream going for a bit. Or the hangout. Talk to everybody later.